Welcome to our 153rd weekly webcast. Now, the way this weekly call works is I first discuss 7 topics that can enhance your career or make you a much better investor. Then what I'll do is I'll spend the rest of the 3-hour call taking your questions. And if you're getting value out of this weekly call, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. I appreciate it. So let's move on to our This Week in Business segment and general topics to help you take your career or investment portfolio to the next level. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about 7 quick topics today, including how to change careers regardless of your age. And what we'll do is we'll also discuss how elite athletes like Lebron James here and many others focus, and how this can help us in business and all aspects of our life. The third topic I'm going to talk is I can't speak this morning. The third topic, so don't click like. The third topic I'm going to talk about this morning is Discord. It's a little bit like Slack. A lot of people are asking me about it. It's very important. I'm going to talk about why it matters to us in business and many aspects of our lives. Then what we'll do is we'll discuss why investors love subscription business models and why we have to have a subscription element to our businesses. Yes, and in addition here to these companies that have subscription business models, Taco Bell is also offering a subscription model, which I'll talk about later today. It's fascinating. Then what I'll do is I'll talk about how Derek Jeter, who just got into the Hall of Fame, and I'll talk about his parents and how his parents raised him to be successful in all aspects of his life by doing one simple thing. And of course, we'll talk about how we can use that one secret to take our careers and personal life to the next level. Then I'll quickly discuss how Walmart and Amazon are creating ghost towns and why we need to support local companies as well. And the last topic I'll talk about, which is a lot of fun, before I take your questions, is why appealing to emotions and family passions that transcend generations with your products can help your business big time. And this comic book right here just sold for $3.6 million. Okay, and please type your questions about these topics or anything else I can humbly answer to either help you take your career to the next level or become a better investor. Okay, let's move on to the first topic. And before we do that, I want to get a sip of water here. Thanks. All right, let's do this. You can change careers at any age, and I'm going to show you how to do it. First of all, don't ever send in your resume. That's right. Because for any job opening out there, there's thousands of people applying. And of course, the ones that get interviewed often have experience in the sector that they're interviewing for, or they know people at the company. You know, the rules have changed. And what I'm about to say, I guarantee you, will help you change careers if you do what I'm about to tell you to do 100 times. I promise you this works. And I'm so confident that it works that in a minute, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all a free course of mine on how to turn your career ambitions from a dream into reality. So here's how you make that that career change at any stage in your life. Number 1, do an advanced search here in LinkedIn, okay, for people that work in the sector or people that work at a company that you want to work at, like IBM, for example. Then what I want you to do is I want you to apply 1 or 2 more filters to see if the people you want to meet with have anything in common with you, like maybe they went to the same school as you did, which for me in this example here is McGill University. Then click on their name, and then what you do is you click here on that message icon right here in the middle. And what I want you to do is I want you to send them a very short email on LinkedIn saying something like this here. Gabriel, hope all is well. I also went to McGill, and I also live in New York. Please let me know if you have time for a quick coffee or a Zoom call. Thanks, Chris. And you don't say why you want to meet. Then during the meeting, you bond first about what you have in common, like is that restaurant still open on Sherbrooke Street? Or is Professor Pascal still teaching, etc.? Then after 10 minutes or so, they're going to very politely ask you, why are we meeting? And what you can do is you tell them that you're passionate about the sector that you want to get into from a career change perspective. And you humbly ask them for advice on how to make that career change. And that bond you have with them, since you're from the same hometown or you went to the same school, will lead to empathy in their hearts. And they will give you advice. This works, I promise you. Then what I want you to do is I want you to ask them if their company is looking to hire and that you don't mind starting at the bottom. And you can even tell them that you'll intern on the side remotely for free. And if they tell you we don't have anything available, then you say, no problem. But then you ask them, do you know of anybody else that also went to our school, McGill, for example, that might want to hire a free intern at IBM, for example? Then they're hopefully going to introduce you to their friends. Now, of course, at the end of the Zoom meeting or the coffee meeting, you thank them. And of course, you connect with them on LinkedIn so that your network expands materially. And another strategy that I've used a lot when I changed careers from the consulting sector to Goldman Sachs to the hedge fund sector, then to venture capital, is I had this strategy of thinking that every battle is won before it's been fought. And so before all of my informational meetings, what I would do is I'd go to the Twitter profile of the person I was going to meet with to see if we have anything else in common, like a love of a certain sport, because sports is great boardroom talk and great meeting talk as well. Then right before the meeting, I would always think to myself, what motivates this person? And how can I be resourceful to help enhance their career? And so I break it down as follows. People are often motivated by three things. Number one, they want to make more money in their career. Number two, they want to get promoted faster. And then number three, they want to enjoy what they do. So in preparation for your 100 informational meetings, I want you to create a one-page document, which is in my free course that I'm going to give you in a minute. And that's going to help you and help them tremendously with their careers. You know, for example, if you want to work in sales and you have no sales experience, but the person you're going to meet with works in sales, and their sales territory is the telecommunications sector in New York State. Well, what you can do is you can network a lot before you're meeting with them and come up with 5 names of people that you reached out to that work in the telecom sector in New York State that could become their customers. Then during your informational meeting, when you thank them for their time, you pull out this one pager that has the 5 names. And you say to them, I'd love to help you by introducing you to any or all of these names. And if you think this is overkill, then I want you to ask yourself, how badly do you want to change careers? And would your competition ever think of doing this? Well, what if it's not a salesperson you're meeting with, but instead it's someone that works in another department? Well, what I've done for you is I've created 10 one-page templates that I'm going to give you for free today in a free course. And I'll give you my complete job course for free in a second. No strings attached, of course, because I want to humbly help you. And my complete job course has always had a 100% lifetime money-back guarantee. And it's been purchased by more than 100,000 people. But it's not about the money. I want to help. I do. So if you want, please go to this website here and download my complete job course for free, as I teach you many ways to network and interview and make a killer LinkedIn profile. So you can and will, I promise you, you will be able to change careers as long as you do these 100 informational meetings. And what I'm about to say, I say with love in my heart. I can take my students to the water, but I can't force them to drink. So please practice the concepts and use the many frameworks or tools or arrows in your quiver or tools in your toolbox that I provide you with. It works, I promise you. But it takes both of us to work on it. And please don't ever think that age is stopping you from making your dream come true at any stage in your life. I'm humbly here to always help. Thank you. All right, give me 1 second to get a little bit of water here. All right. Let's talk about how elite athletes can focus under pressure and how we can use their best practices to enhance our careers. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick it off with Lebron James, who keeps his mind sharp and clear by meditating before each game. And while he meditates, what he does is he blocks out the whole world. Okay, and he blocks out the media and the fan distractions, and he visualizes himself making many points. He thinks about it. And there are examples of basketball teams, they've done studies on this in high school, where the students will meditate about making a shot and not practice for a while. And that actually leads to more three-pointers or swishes or whatever you call it. But LeBron James here, he doesn't care that people are watching him, and he doesn't care what they're thinking. And we have to be the same way as well when we're presenting or interviewing. You just got to be yourself and, ignore all distractions. And the reality is that we think people are judging us all the time. But first of all, who cares what they think? Secondly, they're thinking about their own problems, probably not us. And as my son says, Threeth, we are our own biggest enemies anyway. It's so true. Let me put this down. So I think a great way to increase your focus is to practice gratitude meditation daily before you get out of bed. And before I get out of bed daily, I thank God for these 10 things in this order. Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, my kids. Christine, my wife. My mom, my dad, my brother, Jamie, my sister, Katie and Elizabeth. And you, my students. I'm grateful to you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And I want you to focus and meditate on the positives, like being grateful and visualizing success. And invest in anything that can help you focus more. Like, for example, these hedge headphones here. These things are great. Or exercise more, which, of course, keeps your mind sharp, like it does for LeBron James here. Next up is confidence. Confidence is a big part of it too. And when you're golfing and you're in your backswing, if you tell yourself, oh no, this might not be a good shot, well, then it's not going to be a good shot. It happens to me sometimes when I'm golfing. I'm an awful golfer. And like LeBron James, you got to visualize success before the game or before the business meeting. And just like the Rodin sculpture, I think, therefore I am. And great athletes like Ricky Henderson and Muhammad Ali, who's my favorite, they say, I'm the greatest. And of course, I don't think we can vocalize that, but you got to think it. And since we're talking about athletes, Yogi Berra once said, a great Hall of Fame catcher from the Yankees, he once said, baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical. Now, LeBron also mentors many of his friends, and he's always done this because when one teaches, two learn. So I don't think that we can reach our full potential in business or life without mentoring and being mentored by many people, because this helps us to kind of focus on our own personal blueprint for success when we mentor other people. And LeBron James knows that he cannot win championships on his own, so he is the quintessential team player. Unlike on many sports teams where you have one superstar that's very selfish, and that is why they don't win championships. And the same thing applies in business as well. If you have an awesome team and there's one person that is amazing at what they do, but they're kind of a jerk, then the team is not going to produce. And LeBron James also has an incredibly long-term vision of his success. And we know that being long-term focused on our goals is crucial. As Warren Buffett has always said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. And so you got to come up with your North Star goal and never get discouraged and always stay positive. And I can talk about Lebron forever, but let's move on to business secrets from the greatest athlete ever, Wayne Gretzky. And I'm proudly Canadian, so I'm a little bit biased here. But Wayne Gretzky actually used game theory to always think a couple of moves ahead of the competition. And Wayne Gretzky would say quite often that he was successful not because he skates where the puck is, but because he skates where the puck is going to be. Okay, and we have to use game theory too and think a few moves ahead of our competition. And instead of buying stocks that people like now, we have to buy stocks that people are going to like. And Wayne Gretzky was confident, and he was amazing at being a team player because he never vocalized it. You know, he would often say, when you lose, say nothing, and when you win, say even less. And being humble helps us a lot in business, as the best team players are humble. Okay, and Gretzky would also take many risks, as he famously said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So take the shot more often, please, in business. Because in business and when it comes to your career, you only have to be right one time. And Gretzky takes action now. And he once said this powerful quote. He said this: procrastination is one of the most common and deadliest diseases, and its toll on success and happiness is heavy. And the same is true, of course, in all aspects of business and our personal development best practices. Last piece of Gretzky advice is, if you don't love what you do, then you won't reach your full potential. And he once said this. He said, the only way a kid is going to practice is if it's total fun for him. And it was for me as well. I gave a speech at the Canadian Open a few years ago, and they gave me this as well. It's kind of cool. Red for Canada. I gave a speech a couple of years ago at the Canadian Open on confidence. And Serena Williams, actually, she won the Canadian Open a couple times, and she inspires me so much. And she actually used to live one block away from me here, as her husband is the founder or co-founder of Reddit. And they're doing an IPO soon. Go to my website, harounventures.com, and at the top, search for Reddit, and I run through their IPO and many other topics. Now, Serena's philosophy is, all I want is to have fun in what I'm doing every day. I don't want to break records. And I think that if you make a fun work environment for your team or yourself, then you're going to be way more productive. You know, whether it's listening to Hans Zimmer while you work, having a ping pong table at work, or a foosball table, or video games. If your team seems work as fun, then productivity is going to go through the roof. And this is what we see quite often here in the Bay Area. It's a lot of fun to go to work. There's a lot of games there as well. And Serena also said that you have to love yourself. She said, it's important to look in the mirror and say, I love myself. And if you do, then you're going to have more empathy and love in your heart for those you work with, which of course boosts productivity and love for what you do. We don't love enough. And think about how your product or service is enhancing the lives of your customers, as this kind of gives us a sense of purpose in what we do. And Serena has an astonishing 23 Grand Slam singles titles. So how does Serena deal with pressure? Well, she said this: something I do every day is to completely turn my brain off. And what she does is she spends time daily vegging out, watching television, or watching her daughter. And she's not allowed to think about tennis. And what I used to do when I came home from work, I would meditate, and quickly I conditioned myself so that when I touched the front doorknob on my door, all my thoughts, about work are gone, and I focus on why I am here, which is to spend time with these guys and my wife Christine as well. So Serena also visualizes success. And from a cognitive perspective, she said this: I'm a strong believer in visualization. You need to see things happening and envision yourself in a fantasy world and really believe in that fantasy world until it becomes true. Now, the last athlete I want to quickly talk about in this segment is Tony Gwynn. And God bless Tony Gwynn. He passed away recently. He's one of my heroes in sports. He's incredible. And I'm going to share with you his secret in a second. And I don't collect art except for art about baseball cards. And I've been collecting baseball cards since I was like 12. I love it. I still do. I'm a man-child. But God bless Tony Gwynn. He passed away. Now, in business, when it comes to stocks, if you have an idea, a thesis, and you only use qualitative information, right, for your corporate strategy or investment research, then without quantitative research, meaning without data, it's an opinion and nothing more. And nobody prepared better than Tony Gwynn did for games, as he didn't just practice. Rather, he analyzed data and he found patterns in the data. And back in the 1980s, I'm dating myself here, he had thousands of videotapes. And what he did was he analyzed every single pitcher in massive detail before each game. And that's why he had the best batting average for a career since the 1950s. Even better than Ted Williams, the splendid splinter they used to call him. And in my MBA degree program, which you can access right here, I provide my students with many investment qualitative and quantitative frameworks. So you could do your own homework and outsmart the competition. And Tony Gwynn, given his data analysis of pitchers, only struck out 20 times every year. Think about that. And so every battle is won before it's been fought. So please use data and analyze data in your investment research or when you create your business plan. Lastly, when it comes to investing in options, my upcoming options course is going to teach you how to analyze historical statistics, okay, in a really, really fun and engaging way. Okay, this is, of course, normal distribution. And I'm going to teach it to you in a fun and engaging way, so this will help you offensively and defensively when you invest, like Tony Gwynn did when he analyzed data. God bless. All right, give me 1 second before I move on to Discord here. My kids are all back at school now. I miss them. It's a quiet house. My cat actually likes me now. Okay. What is Discord and why does it matter? Well, the best way to explain Discord is to quickly start with Slack. Slack is used by many big companies to let employees communicate with each other using text, video, voice, etc. on all platforms, meaning mobile and desktop. And I also use Slack for free for my students to communicate with each other in their specific classes. Now, Discord, right here, is like a free version of the higher end Slack product. Okay, and it's used for every topic, and it feels like a free version again of the high end Slack product plus Reddit. And I find that it's much easier and cheaper to use Discord. And it's easier to set up Discord channels and servers, meaning topics for people to communicate about. So on the side there, you can see these round icons on this side here. Depth perception problem by this old man here. But that's where you set up the servers, which are the channels or topics to communicate with people about. Now, let's take a look at Gary Vaynerchuk's channel that I use, and it's called VFriends. And on his channel, one of the things people do is they talk about his NFTs and just NFTs in general. And I know a lot of people think NFTs is not a real market, but it is. For example, Gary was interviewed in CNN recently about selling his art and his NFTs on Christie's, and he's already generated $70 million in sales. The numbers speak for themselves. And Discord is actually a perfect place for people that want to talk about his NFTs, for example. These little micro communities, it's cool. And setting this up on Slack is doable, but it's much more intuitive and faster to do on Discord, which I prefer. And Slack is actually thought of as a platform for business and for developers. But Discord was used initially by video gamers like my kids. And that's how I found out about Discord. And since then, Discord has expanded into many, many different markets. It's not just about video games anymore. And it's really simple to navigate between many topics and servers, as they call them on Discord. But this is a pain in the neck to do on Slack. And Discord actually feels a little bit more like a social network than Slack does. Also, Slack makes you pay $8 per month for high-end use, meaning if you want to search more than 10,000 messages, which is obviously expensive. So the alternative is Discord, which lets you search an unlimited number of messages for free. To be fair, though, and objective, Slack is better than Discord when it comes to API integration, meaning let Slack talk to other products, which is a big deal for companies for compliance reasons. Yeah, and for compliance reasons, they might want to, monitor Slack, or they may want to integrate Slack with their other corporate software products. Also, you get unlimited storage on Discord, but with Slack, you've got to pay if you want more than 5 gigs of storage per person. So which one should you use? Well, if you don't have a budget and you think your employees will use more than 5 gigs each month, and you need to search more than 10,000 messages, then Discord makes much more sense than Slack. If you need to integrate Slack or other corporate applications, and you can afford $8 per month, then Slack will make more sense for you. And had I known about Discord before I started using Slack, then hands down, I would have picked Discord. And I'm currently considering switching my students from Slack to Discord. Why do all companies need to have a subscription element to their business models? Because it helps to make money on a monthly and quarterly. Give me one sec, guys. I'm so sorry. I gotta get some coffee here and some water. And what I do, I'm totally going off script here, is sometimes my throat doesn't work that well. I use this product called Throat 37. And get this stuff before an interview if you got voice problems like I do today. All right, I'm back. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Okay, I'm going to start again. Why do all companies need to have a subscription element to their business models? Because it helps to make monthly or quarterly revenue volatility decrease, and investors love this. And many software and media companies have set up subscription plans for many years now. And investors, what they do is they assign a premium revenue valuation multiple to subscription-based companies because revenue is much more predictable when you have subscribers. And Taco Bell is looking into a subscription taco service, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And the best way to explain why subscription models work is to take a look at the pre-Office 365 days, when it cost you hundreds of bucks to buy Microsoft Office. And you didn't want to pay for a new version of Microsoft Office every few years, as we only use about 5% of the capabilities of applications like Excel anyway. However, instead of spending a few $100s to buy Microsoft Office, it feels much less painful to just pay $9.99, for example, or less per month using charm pricing. Charm pricing means $9.99. And the sticker shock is actually less painful on our monthly credit card bills. And in the old days, buying Adobe Creative Suite, for example, for hundreds of dollars, more than hundreds of dollars, it was close to $1,000 at one point, was really painful. And the monthly fee they charge now is much less painful. And of course, the same thing with Netflix. Imagine if we had to pay over $100 every January to renew Netflix for the year. They wouldn't make as much money that way, of course. So what is Taco Bell, doing with subscriptions? Well, what Taco Bell has done is they've just started testing taco subscriptions for $5 to $10 per month in Arizona at 17 stores. Now, why would they do this? Because you have to use their app to do it. And you might buy a higher margin drink from them when you get the free taco. And by them using an app for everything, they get much better data on customer behavior. And also, not everybody's going to cancel the subscription. Kind of like how in the past we got magazines sent to our house for years, and we never bothered to cancel the magazine subscriptions. Now, it's not just Taco Bell doing this, as Panera Bread and many other restaurant companies have been testing this for years now. And the bottom line is that with the subscription economy, all companies will likely have some sort of subscription plan, which leads to better revenue visibility and higher company valuations too. Now, if this was helpful, please like and subscribe, and thank you as always. New York Yankees legend Derek Jeter was just elected to the Hall of Fame. And a major reason why Jeter has been so successful in every aspect of his life is because his parents made him write down his goals every single year, starting at the age of 9 years old. And this was actually a yearly contract that his parents made him put on his wall. And I've done this with my kids as well, and the results are great. But what we have to do is we need to write down our goals and update them often. And if you do this, then the chances of us materially achieving our dreams rises materially. And most of your competitors won't bother doing this, I promise you. Now, in 1953, before I was born, a little bit before I was born, there was a famous study conducted at Yale University. And the graduating class was asked if they had written down their goals. And only 3% had written down their goals. Then what happened was 20 years later, in 1973, 1 year after I was born, 20 years later in 1973, a poll was taken, and the graduating students from the class of 1953 were asked what their net worth is. And the net worth of the 3% that wrote down their goals was greater than the other 97% combined. So write down your goals in your smartphone's calendar, okay, in this thing here. And make that goal repeated daily. And you can make it a private one as well so nobody sees it. But that's what I do. It repeats daily. And tell your friends or family members what your long-term goals are, so it kind of forces you to work towards them and makes you think of your goals often. And it puts pressure on you, and I say it with love in my heart, to get it done. And you can consider writing down your goals on paper, and then what you can do is you can put them in a sealed and stamped envelope with your address on the envelope. And then you can give the envelope to a buddy or a family member and tell them to please mail the letter in 6 months or 1 year. And what I want you to do is, I want you to think of the most ambitious goal you can achieve in your life. And I don't want you to ask yourself if it is achievable. Of course it is. Rather, I want you to ask yourself, what do you need to accomplish, okay, to get to that goal, in order to make that goal reality? And you can make a rudimentary gap analysis, okay, and just focus on filling the gap, meaning what do you need to accomplish in order to make this goal a reality? And when you first think of an incredibly ambitious goal, you're so fired up and you're excited to start the journey. And before you start the journey, you can clearly see the top of the mountain, which is kind of a metaphor for the goal. There's my goal. I'm excited, man. And then once you embark upon the journey, you're full of energy. You're walking towards it. You're excited. As with each step, you get closer and closer to your goal. Oh, the top of the mountain's becoming bigger now. I'm getting closer. Then much later in the journey, what happens is this, quite often. You become frustrated as you can no longer see the top of the mountain. Where's my goal, man? And as a result, what happens is your pace deviates a bit, and perhaps it's slower than it once was. Where's my goal, man? And you wonder, what happened to my goal? Why can't I see the top of the mountain anymore? Well, the reason is simple. The reason is that you're halfway up the mountain and you just can't see the top of the mountain. But rest assured, your goal is within reach. Finish what you started and be long-term greedy and reap the rewards. And I want you to set a goal so big that you can't achieve it until you become the person that actually can achieve it. And update your goals often, and I promise you that you will wake up one day and realize that you accomplished all of your goals and much, much more. And this is the secret of Derek Jeter's success. Now, we often overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but we massively underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. So please write down your short and long-term goals and watch your career take off. For decades, Walmart has been hurting small towns in America, and Amazon is actually doing the same today, but on a much, much larger scale. Now, Walmart is so successful with their EDLP, which stands for Everyday Low Prices strategy, that whenever a Walmart opens a store in the middle of 3 or 4 small towns, what happens is over time, the smaller stores in those towns just can't compete on pricing. And some of these stores even start buying their products from Walmart, and then they sell those products in their stores at the same price they purchased them from Walmart. And they do this so that hopefully shoppers will pay the same price for the goods at their stores and, God willing, buy other products in their stores while they're there. And this is tragic, but eventually these small town stores go bankrupt. And what happens is the store owners move to another town. And over a decade, this happens over and over and over again, to the extent that the Walmart located between the 3 or 4 towns closes. And it closes also because there are 3 or 4 ghost towns, meaning empty towns. And this is nothing new. But what is new is that countless smaller stores across the country are going belly up because of Walmart, plus a much, much bigger threat, which is Amazon. And it's a sad theme, and it's going to get much, much worse. And I think the best way for this to stop happening is for us to support small family-owned small retail stores and coffee shops, and never use credit cards in their stores, especially not American Express, as their profit margins are razor thin anyway at these stores. And the reason they call Black Friday is because most retail stores are in the red all year long, meaning they're losing money, and then they break even and are in the black hopefully by the end of November, which is Black Friday. And I think it's going to get much, much worse, to the point where shopping malls are going to be a thing of the past because of Amazon, and to a lesser extent Walmart. Now, Amazon's even started opening stores where I live, and they're called Amazon 4-star stores. And they're called that because they sell products that are 4 stars and up. And yes, the prices are low and the value proposition is amazing, because what you can do is you can even return the items to Amazon, to the Amazon 4 stores that you ordered online from Amazon. So if we can, and if we have the choice to buy from an Amazon store or a Walmart store or a small family-owned store, we should of course try, if we can, to support the local smaller businesses and use cash instead of credit cards as a way to support family-owned businesses. All right, this will be the last one, guys. Let me get a little bit of coffee here. Thanks for your patience today. Yeah. I can't believe I've been doing this for 153 weeks, man. It's great. We're just getting started. All right. This Spider-Man comic book just sold for $3.6 million. And over the past year during COVID, people are starting to adopt this YOLO, Y-O-L-O, or you only live once mentality. And what they're doing is they're kind of reflecting on what they loved when they were younger. And what they want to do is they want to revisit those happy moments. And this has led to a massive increase in the prices of baseball cards and comic books. And this has nothing to do with inflation. And Nintendo is also seeing a massive increase in demand for older video games and streaming of older games being re-released. And I think the best brands are the ones that appeal to our emotions, kind of like Coca-Cola does. As all these brands here, they transcend generations. And there's a reason why we have so many successful Marvel and DC comics-based movies. And the best companies actually understand that appealing to emotions when creating products or advertising is incredibly important. And I want to end this very brief topic with a powerful commercial that reminds us of our roots and appeals to our emotions, which is what the best brands often do.
My name is Ratnesh. I'm originally from Mumbai. I like to call it Bombay because I grew up there. What do I remember from Bombay? Well, playing in the streets, taking the local jasmine gajras in the flower market, and my mother praying in the morning. You can move thousands of miles away, but these images, they are always with you.
I'm Alka. My full name is Alka Rani Dubey. I'm 61 years old. My son is Ratnesh. He's staying in New York. First, when he told me he wanted to go to the US, I felt very excited. But when the moment came when he was leaving India, that time I was really very nervous and quite heartbroken, I must say. Today, British Airways has given me a seat on a plane. It is for my son's favorite dish, okra paratha. They will fly it to America and surprise him in his apartment. I think this will make him come home and visit his mummy. I, like every mother does, I used to experiment with different things, putting in his tiffin box. Most of the time, the other vegetables, they will return from the school untouched. But whenever I am giving okra, it is finished. I asked him, why you like okra the most? He said, Mama, my teacher has told the child who eats okra becomes best in his mathematics. My son is progressing day by day. His dreams are getting fulfilled. And his happiness is more than what I ever want for him. When he will look at the tiffin box, first he will think from where has it come, but once he tastes the food, he will know it is made by his mummy. And I am sure he will start searching for me in his apartment. I miss him so much because when he left home, he was hardly 17 years old. And from that day, he did not return home. I miss my son.
My mom had cooked my favorite meal, and she was waiting for someone from British Airways to pick up the tiffin carrier. So they sent me. After flying from New York to Mumbai, there I was, walking to her door, smelling her cooking. It was an incredible feeling. Sometimes, even when you know what's going to happen, you cannot even imagine how it's going to be. I got the opportunity to see my mother in a way I'd never seen her before. She looked lonely. She looked like she sounds over the phone. I just wanted to run out and give her a hug.
Mommy. was a great moment. It was a family moment. Even his dad was there. We all three of us sat, we talked. And I didn't ask him, when are you leaving? I said, I will not ask you today. Let this question be for tomorrow.
All right, time for questions. What a beautiful commercial. If you're not tearing up, then you're not a real person. I teared up a lot the first couple times I saw that one. Excellent. All right, so the way this works is, as y'all know, enter in your questions. I read the questions and all comments in the order in which I receive them. If I skip one by accident, post it again. YouTube doesn't let you put in links. So if you put in links, YouTube will block it. I'll never see it. Okay, let's get started, and thank you. First up, we got Sanyam, who wrote, hey, Chris, as always, thanks for doing the webcast. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. My question is, what are you reading these days? Also, how's the options course coming along for you? Thank you. I appreciate it. So in terms of reading, I just finished the Obama biography. I didn't vote for him, but I love him and I respect him. It was fantastic. He was very self-deprecating, and he talked about, and he actually narrated himself. I listened to it on Audible. And he's the best public speaker on the planet today. And when you listen to him present, you actually learn how to communicate more effectively as well. And the most important thing that I took out of that book was how self-deprecating he is. He talked about how he was a failure by the time he was almost 40 years old. He said, I had a failed political career, and my marriage almost ended. I can't do an impression of him great anymore. But he reinvented himself at the age of 40, and his career obviously took off, which is why I feel passionate about anybody that wants to change careers or reinvent themselves at any age. You know, age is not your enemy at all. All right. In terms of the options course, it's coming out later this year, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to make it the best course I've ever done. And I'm teaching you statistics in a brand new way, okay, in a fun way, like not the boring way we learned in university. You know, I'm also teaching you how casinos work, and that's important from a Monte Carlo simulation perspective. And I'll break all this down in the course. But I'm teaching you how casinos work because if you understand how casinos make money, you can make a fortune yourself. In casinos, they make money 51% of the time. Right? They lose money 49% of the time. And they don't let you do big trades usually because they know if you win big on a certain trade, you break the bank. So I'm teaching you to think that way in the options course. And you'll love it, I promise you, or your money back. Yeah. And people are asking me if it's going to be in the MBA program. It is. I'm going to have a longer version, more comprehensive in the MBA program. And for those of you that already graduated and finished the MBA program, it's going to be added just after class 89 as an elective. And everybody that's signed up for my MBA degree programs over the years, you'll all get an email telling you how to access it for free. You get all my stuff for free. Always, always, always. All the new stuff. You pay once, that's it. I don't charge anyone monthly. Well, I do now. I have a subscription program. It's another matter, though. All right, next up, Samir wrote, hello, Chris. Hey, good morning. Good morning to you as well. I've been wondering, how do you keep focused during work? Do you use techniques like Pomodoro or Flow? I don't know what that is. Let me know what that is, please. Yeah. So the way that I focus, a couple ways. Number one, I drink plenty of water. Okay, and I finish this every day. You can order something like this on Amazon or from a local family-owned store, I should say. And what this is basically it's just got times on the side. So I'm supposed to be up to 9:30 right now, which I am. And I have a rule. Every time I leave this room, I have to take 2 gulps. And when I come back in, I got to take another 2 gulps. And my energy has gone up a lot because of it. What I also do to keep focused is I drink, and this is going to sound out there, but I've been doing this for many, many years now. I drink coffee, and I put a tablespoon of grass-fed organic butter in it. And people have been doing this for hundreds of years. And if you do this, what happens is it materially increases your cognitive abilities to focus. Kind of like Bradley Cooper in that movie Limitless, except he took a drug and this is natural. Yeah, so I do that. What I also do, you are what you eat, and people are consuming organic everything, so you are what you eat, I guess these days too. What I do is every Sunday, I make 7 of these things, okay? It's all organic juice that I make myself. Kale, raw ginger root, cinnamon, a bunch of antioxidants, etc. I take a lot of multivitamins as well. And what you actually don't see in my office here is I don't have a chair. And I got rid of my chair earlier this year because people complained on my YouTube call, and I take it very seriously, that I sounded tired. So I'm like, screw that, man. I don't have a chair in here anymore. I stand all day, and I have this little treadmill below me. And it's a little bit squeaky, but I get 20,000 steps every day. Okay, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now. So while I work, and I pull my desk up as well. It's elevating here. You can't see it, so that I can type here. And I do this. I walk all day long, right? And I've taken about 15 million steps on this thing, and it's the cheapest treadmill you can buy. And I find that, and I'll turn it off so I don't drive you guys crazy with the squeaking there. But I find that when you're studying, the first hour of the day, you're most productive, of course. And 1 hour of work or studying when you first get up is better productivity-wise than 12 hours of work at night. Now, there's a way to hack this, and I figured it out humbly, which is this. If you exercise while you're working, it feels like you just woke up all day long, which means you're 10 or 12 times more productive every single hour. And that keeps you focused. You treat this right, this thing will reward you. It's true. It's true. So these are hacks that I've used as well. It works for me. Do what works for you. But I can talk about other hacks if you want to as well. Yeah. And I also do what I'm passionate about. I love my students so much. Yeah. All right. Next up, Hisham wrote, good morning. Hey, Hisham, how are you? Hisham was one of my students when I used to teach during the evenings at several Bay Area universities. He was at San Francisco State, great guy. And I also hired him. He worked with me for a while as well. And you're at Amazon now, I think, right? Good to see you, buddy. Hisham wrote, good morning, Chris. Hope all's well with the, and then you wrote here, with all the disruption and innovation in fintech and other areas, it can be overwhelming to stay up to date. How do you separate the signal from the noise? Thanks. Yeah. So great question. In my MBA degree program, I provide you with a ton of frameworks so that you can analyze companies, right? And one of the most important things that people overlook that's not taught in traditional MBA schools is don't waste your time analyzing the financial statements or the business model unless you feel comfortable with the management team. Because that's what a company is. So, like Elon Musk, he could start any company and people would invest because it's Elon. Jeff Bezos, people loved Amazon for years because of Jeff Bezos. Same thing with Microsoft, with Bill Gates. Always analyze the management team first, and I teach you how to do this in a lot more detail in my MBA degree program. Yeah, the jockey's always more important than the horse. Ideas are commodities, but execution is not. So the way I focus on investments is I first look at the management team. Now, I've worked on Wall Street, and I've invested in publicly traded companies for years, and I've also worked in venture capital for years. And in the public markets, there's a notion of past performance is not indicative of future performance. But in the private markets, it is. And I know lawyers are rolling their eyes right now. But it is because if you invest in a manager or a founder that's been successful before, then the probability of you making money goes up tremendously if you invest in them. Always look at the management team first, yeah. And what I also do, Hisham, when it comes to fintech or finance technology companies, of which I've invested in a lot of companies, I look at the total addressable market, right? So when I invested in Palantir, when it was a private company, I did one of the venture capital rounds, invested years ago. I don't own the stock anymore. But we looked at the size of the total addressable market for analytical software, for finance companies, governments, et cetera, which was massive. You never want to invest in a company that has a tiny market because in the unlikely event that that company captures 100% of the market, so what? It's a small market. Always invest in massive markets. Look at the management team first. Yeah. And I have a 100-step process as well for my students to use in my MBA program, and many other tools as well. Great to see you, man. I missed you. All right, next up, Rudy. Hey, Rudy, how are you? Rudy, it's been years, man. Great to see you. You started an insurance company. I remember that. Yeah. Hope you're doing well, man. Great to see you. And my son, Andrew, he's older now. He's looking at going to maybe Notre Dame. Yeah. And my son's so funny. He's looking at universities. It's up to him if he wants to go, of course. He's looking at universities. And the way he tells if a university is good for him or not is the quality of the football team. And yeah. Check out the movie Rudy if you guys haven't seen it yet. It's a great story. All right, great to see you, buddy. All right, next up, Craig. Craig said, "Good day, Chris. How are you? Are the financial analysis and financial modeling skills in your finance courses applicable or transferable to real estate analysis or modeling?" Yeah, absolutely. So when you're modeling for real estate, and I'm adding a lot more stuff about real estate to the curriculum very soon. There's stuff in it already, but I'm adding more. But when you invest in real estate or any asset class, when you analyze it longer term, you have to understand how much cash is made by that company longer term. And once you figure that out for every year in the future or estimate it, then you discount that back into today's terms. And so in Microsoft Excel, just to play around with it, you can type in equals NPV, open brackets. And what that is that means net present value. So you go equals NPV, open brackets, and then you select all those cash flows in the future, and then you enter in whatever discount rate you want to, and that will tell you the value of that real estate holding or any company for that matter. Yeah. Okay. And I talk about REITs as well. And for all of you that want to invest in real estate, but you don't want to tie up your capital forever and you don't want to pay massive fees, you can buy REITs. And REITs are like stocks, right? They're 3 or 4 letter tickers. And basically it's a collection of office buildings or shopping malls. And by law, these REITs, real estate investment trusts, they have to pay out 90% of their operating profits in the form of dividends. Yeah. All right. Next up, Sanjay. Hey, Sanjay, how are you, man? Sanjay wrote, "Hello, sir. Chris, please. Hope you're doing well. Likewise. I wanted to know which option is better for the long term, hedge funds or investment banking. Sorry. I would say if you're confused about what to do in your career, I would say investment banking might make more sense early on. And the reason is because, and I'll make this a generic comment that applies to everybody. If you're not sure what you want to do in life, get an origination job, meaning a job that makes the product. I'll explain that in a second. Because if you hate making the product, you understand how it's made though, because you worked in that industry, and you can sell it, market it, do operations on it. So investment banking, I'll talk about consulting and tech in a second. But investment banking, you actually create the product. So if you're an investment banker, and this is investment bankers made this from the Facebook IPO in the summer 2012. So if you're an investment banker, you originate the product, okay? And if you originate the product, you create the product, okay, or do M&A advisory work, then it's easier for you to understand. If you hate investment banking and making the product, it's easier for you to understand how to sell the product or invest in the product or manage people that work on the product, okay? That's the finance side. When it comes to the consulting side, if you like business, but you're not sure what kind of business you want to go into and you don't really like finance, well, start off working in the consulting sector. Because when you work in consulting, which is what I did years ago, you're creating the corporate strategy of a company, right? Like McKinsey does. And you're making that corporate strategy. And if you hate it, well, you understand how to make it so you can move on and maybe work in sales to sell it, or operations or management, whatever it is. The same thing in tech. If you're not sure what you want to do, but you want to work in some sort of tech company, then you can work as a programmer. Like at Google, you're at the top of the food chain. It is what it is at Google. You're at the top of the food chain if you make the product, if you're a programmer there. And if you hate being a programmer, well, if you've done it and you understand it, you can sell the technology manage the technology, do operations on the technology. So the bottom line is, if you're confused what you want to do in your career, and most people don't figure it out until decades and decades and decades after they started working. But if you're confused in terms of what you want to do in your career, work as an originator, somebody making the product initially. Yeah. All right. Now, Kevin is saying good morning. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Marcos, how are you? Marcos, first time seeing you on the call. I hope you join us again, man. Great to see you. Andrew Dupree, me and Dupree. Andrew was the first student that got into my MBA degree program. He's the opposite of me, which means he's better than me. He's from California, but he lives in Toronto. I'm from Toronto, but I live in California. He's awesome. We exchanged a bunch of emails. Andrew, I miss you. I hope you're doing well, brother. Yeah. And his son is the #1 prospect in Canada now for basketball. Yeah. Cool. And Andrew, I've got a lot of tips and tricks with respect to that issue you talked to me about. And let's connect and do a call together live, okay? So send me a message and we'll catch up live. Because I've got a lot of humble advice for you as well. And I miss you. Okay. Next up, T wrote, good morning, Chris and all. Good morning to you too. Good to see you. We got Peyton. How are you? Peyton said you're a legend. No. Peyton, I love you, brother. So Peyton, everybody check out Peyton. Okay, copy and paste his name into YouTube. He's got an unbelievable YouTube channel. It's incredible. He's in my MBA program. And the reason I talked about Discord today was because Peyton asked me about it. And I couldn't answer the question properly, so I did research. So thank you, Peyton. Great to see you, brother. Peyton's in the Navy. Good to see you. All right. Next up, Manas, who's from India, who published a book using one of my book templates called Bonds Before Business, which I have. Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. Great to see you. Hope all is well with you as well. Just a common question. For you, how much time do you usually take to create a course, like the average one, from shooting to editing to uploading the course? Yeah. So it all depends on the length. So the 7 topics that you guys see every week, what I do is I spend an hour on Monday night coming up with the 7 topics. Then what I do is I spend all day Wednesday writing the topics, creating the slides, practicing. Okay, so that's about a half hour-ish or so. So that's about 1 day for a half hour of content. So if I'm doing a 1-hour course, that's 2 days. If I'm doing it 10 times that length, you can do the math as well. Now, with the options course, because it's so complicated what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to teach options in a fun way, and it's coming out soon, and I promise you, you guys are gonna love it. I'm teaching it in a different way with lots of props. And I always try to think and teach differently and present differently too, so that it's edutainment and you guys get it right away. And when I used to work at a hedge fund called Citadel, my boss would say to me, Haroun, if you can't explain it, you don't understand it. And so that's what I'm doing. So I'm building on the components one step at a time. And you're going to laugh when you see this next part. But after a while, in that course, the options course, you have this incredible aha moment, and it all makes sense, right? And so whenever you present or you teach or whatever it is, guest lecture, always bring in props, because just like show and tell when you're a kid, that's all people remember. They don't remember what the teacher said. So I try to visualize it. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, you're awesome. Be yourself no matter what they say. Thank you. No, I appreciate it. God bless you. And that's a great quote from my favorite artist, which is Sting. He wrote this song called Englishman in New York. And there's one great line, which is, be yourself no matter what they say. Yeah. So I'm wearing a t-shirt today. I'm just being myself here. Yeah. All right, Dinesh, how are you, man? Dinesh wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Likewise. Netflix is a great subscription model-based business, but it is a platform. Some say it is, and some say not. Okay, and you have a question about that. Yeah. It's definitely a platform, without a doubt. And the best investments in history in tech are platforms, right? So if you own the road, you charge the cars, right? So it is a platform. It definitely is. Yeah. Absolutely, without a doubt, it's a platform. And the cars, so to speak, are the users, as well as there's content, lots of movies, television shows, etc. If anybody's watching a great Netflix show, please let me know. I've run out of things to watch. Yeah. I just finished the 9/11 6-part series, which is good. Yeah. All right. And then Dinesh wrote, also, Is mobile gaming the next big thing for subscription business models? What's your take? Thanks. Yeah. I mean, there's a big future in it. What breaks my heart about mobile is when I first got this thing, there were so many great games. You know, every week or so, my sons and I, my 3 kids, we download a new game, like Field Runners 1, Field Runners 2, best games ever. You know, Where's My Water, all these great games, whatever. And then what happened was innovation stopped. And there's no new cool apps anymore. It sucks. Like if you compare and contrast the App Store today to a couple of years ago, it hasn't changed. And one of the reasons it hasn't changed is because you've got an oligopoly in the market. And the Android store is even worse. You've got 2 companies that dominate the industry. And Apple, what they've done is they've started to sell their subscription service and give it away for free for their games. So they're forcing that on us, and that pushes out the competition. It's not fair. Now, Fortnite just sort of won the battle in court with Apple. So things are getting better. But I think innovation has died temporarily on this. Yeah. So, yeah, I do think subscription is definitely the future for every industry, whether it's tacos or gaming, whatever. But it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to the App Store. Yeah. I still think that in-game purchases are going to blow away any sort of traditional business model we've seen on these things in the past. And so for me, my GOC, my game of choice right now, I'll show you what I'm playing. I'm playing MLB Derby. Okay, I love it. And yes, I subscribe and I have paid. I've done a couple of in-game payments. So it's like $8 a month. And then also sometimes I'll splurge and buy a pack of baseball cards on it as well. It's kind of like NFTs. It's pretty cool. And Major League Baseball's done a great job with this. Yeah. All right, next up, I've got L. Greg. Hey, L. Greg, how are you? Good to see you. Tyrell wrote, during your MBA, one of your workbooks has a link to receive your networking book for free. I filled out the site to get the networking book, but never received anything anywhere I can go follow up. Yeah, absolutely. So it's I promise you, it's in your junk mail. This happens every now and then. So what you do, and anybody can do this to get my book for free, just go to my website, Haroun Ventures, and then scroll down, and then write, here it is here, yeah. Right here, just fill this in, and then check your junk mail. I promise you, you'll find it. If you have another issue with the MBA program, please email support@harounventures.com. And I answer those personally, all those questions, and I'll get back to you immediately. Thank you. All right. Next up, Soul Farm wrote, hey, Prof, I recently joined your MBA program, and I'm very glad I did. Thank you. I appreciate that. And if you joined within the past 30 days, if for any reason you don't like it, just get your money back, 100% of your money back. And then you wrote, what are your thoughts on leveraging personal investment success, although with relatively small sums, for an investment career entry? Yeah. So if what you're interested in doing is starting your own investment firm, you have to have an audited track record. Okay. Now, if you want to start your own investment management firm, I can go down that path today if you want me to. Okay. You got to get lawyers involved. I can tell you how to set up a master feeder structure for onshore, offshore, etc. And whenever, and I'll make this a generic comment to reply to everybody, for everybody, but whenever you start a company, whether it's an investment company or any company, if somebody tells you they're going to give you a certain amount of money, right, as an investor, cut it in half. Because at the last second, a lot of people chicken out. Yeah. And always get a lawyer involved when it comes to money, obviously, because I want to protect you and your family. Yeah. All right. Next up, M. Andrews wrote, hey, Chris and everyone from Madeline. Hey, Madeline, how are you? I'm loving your on-demand MBA program. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. And question is, do I put entrepreneurship business on a LinkedIn profile while employed in another industry, or do I create a separate one? Yeah, I would have only one LinkedIn profile. And just think of who your most important customer is. If it's your boss who might be looking, or your customers at the big company you're working at, then make it that. And I always advise that people don't quit their full-time jobs until they write a thorough business plan, because failing to plan is plan to fail. I also advise not using your own money. I teach you how to raise money from high net worth investors in my MBA program. In the third semester, if you fast forward to semester 3, in the entrepreneurship track, there's 5 classes on a venture capital boot camp. That's like 500 startups or Y Combinator. And I kind of teach it that way as well. And I advise that you don't ever quit your full-time job unless you've made a ton of money over the past 6 months from your startup, okay? And that 6-month amount is larger than your annual salary. And I say 6 months because of seasonality. If you start a company on the side in November and you make a lot of money in December, be careful. December is always the biggest month for many, many reasons, for shopping reasons, yeah. Okay. Next up, Raj wrote, hey, Chris, you discussed a boot. Thank you for spelling about like a Canadian. It's A-B-O-O-T. Thank you. That's how Americans have accents, not Canadians. Okay, I'm just going. You wrote, you discussed a boot LinkedIn for career change. I want to know how I can use its premium feature for career growth. I've just tried InMail and LinkedIn learning it. God bless you. God bless you way more. Yeah. So the way that LinkedIn works is you pay a subscription fee and you can send InMails. You can send a certain number each month. And if somebody responds to the InMail, then that doesn't count as one of your InMails used per month. Yeah. And so I would use InMails a lot for getting customers, informational meetings, jobs, whatever it is. And you can go to my website, harounventures.com, and do a search on creative meetings at the very top. And I teach you 5 creative ways to get many more meetings. One of the strategies is using LinkedIn in a different way. Okay, next up we have Mr. Trump, who wrote, hey, Chris, how should we spend our undergraduate time so it's going to be useful in the long term? Yeah. So what I would say is network a lot. Like, don't be that dude that just studies all the time. And when I used to teach in universities during the evenings, you know, the most successful students that I've ever had are never the ones that got the top grades. The ones that did exceptionally well were the ones that were well-rounded. You know, they socialized, they partied, they had a good time. Because relationships are more important than product knowledge, and your network is your net worth. So be well-rounded. Meet as many people as you can. Meet people, have fun, and learn in that order. Yeah, and I promise you won't regret it in the long run. You also want to network tremendously, as much as you can, with alumni from the school. Because alumni, their guards are down, they'll help you more so when you're a student. So network like crazy. Yeah, and find your passion, man. And this goes to everybody on this call. If you get up in the morning and tell yourself you're going to school or you're going to work, you're doing it wrong. And I say with love in my heart, you got to find your purpose, your in life. And Mark Twain said, the 2 most important days in your life are number 1, the day you're born, and number 2, the day you find out why. So keep searching for it. Experiment. And when you're in school, take a bunch of electives and see what you're passionate about. And if you can't find those electives, or if you're not in school, what you can do is just go online, take online courses. Like if you've never done any tech stuff, and it doesn't matter how old you are or young you are, and you want to learn tech and see if you like it, do a search on Angela Yu courses, and you'll see they're great. And it's much cheaper than paying for university too. And with my MBA degree program, the cost for 1 hour of a traditional MBA school is what the cost is of my program. Plus you get a 30-day 100% money back guarantee. Yeah. And I teach you, and I'm not a degree mill. I'll never want to be a degree mill. I don't care about accreditation. I just want to teach my students to be successful. Yeah. I arm you with lots of frameworks. Yeah. All right, and then L. Greg said, yes, Discord is great. It's pretty cool. I learned about it from this dude here, Matthew. He's a bit older now. But, he during COVID, he started a business streaming video games online. He did well, actually. It's awesome. He bought a bunch of his own equipment and stuff. But he uses Discord a lot for talking to his buddies. Yeah. And you got to pay attention to the younger generation to understand future investment trends, always. That's Generation Next, yeah. All right. And then On Passive Ecosystem said, Chris is killing Slack. Yeah, I did beat up Slack. As much as I like Mark Benioff, that was the Salesforce bought Slack. I do think Discord is a better platform. Yeah, it's like open source. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Naveed said, hey, Chris, can you please provide some good practical tips for staying motivated. Yeah. So goal setting is important, and I won't go down that path because I talked about it a lot. But you got to kind of have a purpose in life. You got to work towards something, right? And so set aggressive goals, right? And I love the feeling of being over my head. And what I'm about to say is going to sound kind of out there, but I love challenging myself. And when I start something big, like my MBA program, Humbly, or anything, at the beginning, I feel like I'm looking over a cliff. And I throw a bunch of airplane parts out. And then I jump off the cliff, and I have to assemble the airplane before I land. And I just love pushing myself so hard to my limits, so I grow into the person that can actually make that happen. So I would set massive, massive goals. And as James Cameron, the great director from Avatar, said, if you set your goals so high and you fail, you still fail above everyone else's expectations. In terms of keeping your motivation up, I would also exercise daily, right? Treat this well. Then from a motivational perspective, this thing will reward you. I'd schedule breaks. I'd take one day off a week if you can. There's a reason why in a lot of great religions, in the old text, one of the 10 rules is take a day off. You got to rest, and rest your mind. Yeah. All right. Next up, Dinesh. And dude, you got to cut off all people that bring you down, if you can. I know it's hard. You can't cut off family or some people around you at work, whatever. But if there are people that are telling you can't do it or they're negative all the time, two things. Number one, they don't belong in your life. And secondly, if you can't get them out of your life, then tell yourself this. Unjustified criticism is a disguised compliment. So in your mind, thank them for those compliments. Yeah. But you set the soundtrack to your life, so to speak, right? You can control your surroundings. When you're younger, your parents try to pick your friends for you. Like when you have teenagers and your parents say, don't hang out with that person because he or she does drugs. And you're like, no, they don't do drugs. They do drugs. You know what I'm talking about. My parents were like that with me too. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But when you're older, you choose your own friends as well, your own environment, the soundtrack of your own life. All right. Next up, I've got Dinesh, who said, on what basis do companies decide whether they want to issue dividends or not, and how does it matter to investors? Yeah, it's a great question. So there's two camps of investors. There's growth investors, and there's value investors. Growth investors want the company to spend all their money growing quickly and not be that profitable today. Value investors want you to pay a high dividend, not grow that fast, and be cheap on a price to earnings basis. And every growth company, eventually, their growth slows. It's a law of large numbers. And then it slowly transitions to become a value company. Okay, and that transition is called investment purgatory. That's what I call it. And never invest in a company that's transitioning from growth to value, because when it's in no man's land, growth investors don't want to touch it, and value because it's not growing, and value investors don't want to touch it because it's not cheap enough yet. So be really, really careful. And the thing that can make that transition from growth to value go faster is if activist investors like Carl Icahn or private equity firms get involved to limit this transition phase. So once you're a value-based firm, then you can think about issuing a large dividend because that's what your investors want. Okay, and you can do a one-time special dividend too, if you want to, or do things like buy back a ton of shares, like Microsoft announced this morning. They're going to buy back $60 billion worth of shares to increase the valuation, and value investors love that. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Naveed said, and give me 1 second. What happens sometimes, it skips on me when I get a lot of questions at once, so I'm going to do a search for Naveed. Give me 1 second. You asked 2 questions, so here's another one. All right, hold on 1 second, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay. All right, next up, Naveed said, hi, Chris. Another question. Sure, as many as you want, please. How would you improve your language skills for the corporate world, specifically functional vocabulary for day-to-day communication and corporate reporting. Please share easy tips. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I would say a lot of it comes with practicing presentations. And if you're scared of presenting like I used to be, you got to run towards your fear and embrace it, because your competition won't do that. And if you force yourself to get into uncomfortable situations, kind of like you asking people out on a date over and over and over again, if you force yourself to go to uncomfortable situations like presenting, and you condition yourself to enjoy it, eventually you'll master that skill. You will. And a lot of vocabulary comes with confidence as well. And you got to tell yourself, I don't give a damn what people think of me. I'm just going to be me. Because as Dr. Seuss said, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. Just practice over and over and over again. Presenting, as Tony Robbins said, repetition is the mother of all skill. So how do you practice presenting? Well, you can go to meetup.com and do a search for Toastmasters. And in every city in the world, there are Toastmasters clubs that you can go to present, or do it over Zoom as well. And with all my MBA students, I say with love in my heart, my MBA students, I can bring you to the water, but I can't force you to drink. And so I encourage all of my MBA students to team up with each other, using Slack, which we're using now, or networking over LinkedIn, and just present to each other using Zoom. And it works, I promise you. But you got to force yourself to do it. Yeah. All right. And then also, what I would recommend, Naveed, if it's corporate reporting from a financial perspective, I want you to listen to a ton of earnings calls. So every quarter, companies report earnings. And many companies hold an earnings call every quarter that's open to the general public. And what happens is investor relations speaks for the first couple of minutes. Then the CEO speaks for 10 minutes. Then the CFO speaks for 10 minutes. Listen to the CFO closely for financial topics. Then there's Q&A for about 15 or 20 minutes. And the Q&A portion is crucial because the top Wall Street analysts ask questions. Listen to how they ask questions, and listen to how the CFO responds to those questions. And you do that enough times, and your financial vocabulary will go up a lot. Yeah. All right, next up, Arjun. Hey, Arjun. And I worked with a guy named Arjun Murti at Goldman years ago, and your last name initials is M. Arjun said, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. I am, thank you. Likewise. How does bureaucracy take over a company over time? Yeah. So bureaucracy sets in usually when the founder is less engaged with the company or when the founder leaves. And what happens is when the founder leaves a company, then people don't want to take as many risks because they know that they can get fired if they take risks and they're not successful. And so all they focus on doing is climb the corporate ladder. That's just what happens, and not taking risks. And bureaucracy sets in. You can watch the movie Office Space. That epitomizes a bureaucracy. But yeah, and also one more thing I would say about bureaucracy, and Amazon does a great job of this. You want to keep your team small, because we all know in school or business, when it comes to meetings, if there's too many people in the meeting, it's a disaster. Nothing gets done. And so Amazon has a way to fight bureaucracy since day one. They have a policy that no meeting is allowed to take place that requires more than 2 pizzas to feed the people in the room. It's called the 2 pizza rule. Because I believe that one gal, one guy in a garage can change the world. Small teams are more effective, and they're not bureaucratic. And then Christoph wrote, okra. Yeah, from that British Airways India commercial. Yeah, it's good. My dad calls it okra. He's from Egypt. Chris, do you want okra? I love you, Dad, if you're watching. Okay. And then T wrote, I love this, the video. Yeah, that video, the commercial was great. Next up, Arjun said, can an employee send... Give me a second, guys. Sorry. Can an employee send an email to a company's CEO about potential suggestions for improvement? How do you think it'll play out? Yeah, I did that at Accenture. When I worked at Accenture in the 90s, I did that. And I went over people's heads. And I'm glad I did. but you got to be careful. You got to be careful. I hate bureaucracy in politics, but I'll tell my students whatever it takes for them to be successful. One of the rules is never go over your boss's head. Unless you think your boss feels threatened by you and they think that they hired their assassin and they're insecure and they're going to let you go anyway, then you got nothing to lose. You go right to the top. Yeah. So it depends on what situation you're in. Yeah. All right. Next up, Christoph wrote, I want to go and stay in India for a while again. It's a beautiful country and beautiful people. I agree. I love India. I love it. It changes you when you visit. I absolutely love it. Yeah. Alan. Oh, Alan, how are you? Speaking of India. So Alan was one of my students when I taught during the evenings at the Halt International School of Business. And Halt actually sent me to India, to Mumbai and Delhi, to teach a couple classes once, which was fun. Alan is from France originally, great guy. I hired him to work with me to translate my courses. He's awesome, he's the best. So Alan wrote here, options have been a rough life experience for me. Yeah. So what I recommend, if you guys want to start transacting in options, I'll do this very quickly, I promise you. But what I recommend doing is you practice for 6 months first, okay? And you use a product, I'm going to show you right now quickly, called Think or Swim. And you guys can do this in any country. If you're in a country where you can't download it, what I want you to do is I want you to install the Express VPN, which is the VPN I work. It works everywhere. And when you log in, I'll show you. You can do live trading or paper money. So I'm going to log in for paper money quickly here, okay? And my password. All right, so I'm logging in. It's so funny when you're at an ATM and you type in your password and your buddies are beside you, and the second you type in your password, your buddies go, they look this way, like they think you don't trust them. Yeah. All right, so what I recommend doing, Alan and everybody, is downloading Thinkorswim. It's made by TD Ameritrade, okay? And I'm using simulated trading here. And what you can do is you can actually transact in options here. And you get a free paper portfolio of 100 grand. And you can reset it anytime you want, right? So for example, if we type in here, Tesla, what you can do is you can buy and sell Tesla here. And not just Tesla stock, but you can actually do options as well. And so here's options here for Tesla, okay? And I run through this in my options course in my MBA program in a lot of detail. But you can right click and you can buy a single option if you want to. You can buy an iron condor, which basically is 4 options put together. You can buy butterflies, and then you can execute these trades and understand how much money you can lose. And so right here, if I execute this trade, which I explain from scratch in my options course on Tesla and iron condor, it tells me my maximum profit for this is $750. My maximum loss is $92. So I haven't put much thought into this. And then you can send the trade, and then it gets, it went through. You heard that click there. So I bought it, right? So I bought the iron condor. It's in my portfolio now. And you monitor this stuff until you understand it. And I break it down from scratch in my upcoming options course, like with Lego bricks, like real bricks. And you'll see what this means when you start the course, so that you have this incredible aha moment and you understand how it works. Yeah. But you certainly got to practice all this stuff, or it can be disastrous, because options can destroy you. Yeah. Okay. And there's so many people make a fortune off of making money from people that don't understand options. Right? Yeah. And I'll teach you how to make money that way too. Okay, next up, Faisal. Hey, Faisal, how are you? Faisal wrote, hey, Chris, how can we get into management consulting as a fresh graduate from a not well-known college? And how should we remove the tag of tier 3 college? Yeah. So relationships are always more important than product knowledge, always. Network like crazy, and you can run circles around those spoiled kids with spoons in their mouths that got into Harvard because their parents went there or they're rich or something. Yeah, that's why I do what I do. I want to help. So what I recommend doing for anybody that's interested in working at a company, consulting company, whatever it is forget about my website, but you can go to, I think it's called Vault Reports. And you can download these guides here from vaultreports.com or vault.com. And there are these guides you can download for like 20 or 30 bucks that will tell you exactly what questions people ask in an interview and how to get into the top 50 management consulting firms or the top banking firms or whatever it is, or how to get internships, how to interview and all that stuff. They have individual ones for individual companies as well. Every battle is won before it's been fought. Check that out. I promise you it works. It worked for me. Okay. All right. And then Alan said, I'd love to learn a repeatable and consistent strategy for options trading from you. And he wrote Sensei. No, thank you. So yeah, and I'll teach you this during the program. I'll teach you about writing options. And the way that, and I'll make it easy to understand. The way that casinos work is they make a fortune. This is a prop for Monte Carlo simulation from the options course. The way that casinos make a fortune is they basically win 51% of the time, and they make you only do small bets. Okay, this is a one-armed bandit, right? And small bets because they don't want you to break the bank. The best options traders also do very, very small trades and make a little bit of money over time, but it all adds up. Yeah. And people that lose a lot of money from investing, quite often they don't think about risk management, and they make their position sizes too big, and they try to make a fortune in a small amount of time, which is impossible. With options, you make a little bit of money over time, and I'll teach that later to you guys as well. All right, give me 1 second. Okay, I lost a bunch of people there. You can tell in real time. I get feedback as well, so I won't talk about that much more. All right. Next up, Tyrell. Hey, Tyrell, how are you? It was great seeing you again. You were on last week too. Tyrell wrote, I'm enjoying your MBA program. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, no, thank you. And then you wrote, I'm following in order and trying to complete 2 to 3 classes per day. Thanks for doing this. My pleasure. My pleasure. That's a lot. That's like 6 to 9 hours per day. So there's 100 classes, 3 hours each. And if you do 1 class per day, you can finish it in a year. If you're doing what you're doing, 2 to 3 classes per day, you can finish it in 3 to 6 months. Yeah. Thank you. Next up, Justin wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning. Nice to see you again. Likewise. Which market do you think will plunge the most when the Fed starts tapering? Yeah. So the Federal Reserve, the body in the United States that controls interest rates, they can't cut rates anymore. At some point, they have to raise rates because of inflation. And so the question is, which market do you think will plunge the most? Yeah. So I would say that the most speculative markets. Okay. And so when rates rise quickly and the economy is not doing that well, then low growth value stocks with decent dividend yields and low valuations tend to outperform. And so what will get hit first is the Russell 2000 index, which is 2,000 smaller companies that are growing quickly. What will also get hit hard are any companies that IBD talks about, and that's Investors Business Daily, and they focus on growth stocks. Then many NASDAQ stocks will get hit. And the last companies to get hit, I'm talking about America here, are the large bellwether Dow 30 components that aren't growing very fast because they're lower risk, right? So it's what happens. Emerging markets will get hit as well. Emerging market like Brazil, for example, Russia, where you should never invest, China, where you should be careful about accounting. Like other emerging markets will get hit as well, quite hard. Yeah. And I teach you in my MBA program how to be incredibly diversified as well. All right, and cryptos will get hit hard too. Anything speculative. All right, next up, and then Justin wrote, my personal opinion will be crypto. Yeah, I would love to hear your analysis. Yeah. Anything speculative will get hit for sure. Yeah, and history repeats itself when it comes to human nature with bubbles. What we saw in the 1400s, or actually 1600s, was rose petals or rose or tulip bulbs. I'm so sorry. People made the price of tulip bulbs go up hundreds of percent in a couple of years, and then it crashed. And you see many stock market bubbles over the years, but anything speculative that's gone up too fast in price, like tulip bulbs, will get hit hard. And I guess the tulip bulb I'm talking about here are speculative cryptos. Yeah. All right. Next up, Shihan. Hey, Shihan. Wrote, hey, Chris. What would be a good approach to learning data science, and what importance do you think it will play going forward? Yeah. So whenever I look at a sector or a company or a theme, I ask myself this question. In 5 years, will this company or sector be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? And so in 5 years, data analysis will be much more relevant, of course. So yeah, I'd look into it. The best way to learn it is to take courses from Maven Analytics. You can go to Udemy and do a search on Maven, or you can search for this guy named Kirill, who teaches on Udemy data science as well. He's great. And I don't get brownie points for mentioning Udemy. It's an algorithm. If my courses suck, many of them do, they won't sell. Yeah, but that's where I'd start. Yeah. And you can also play around with Excel. And in my options course coming up, I go deep into Excel as well with no macros because I don't believe in code as part of an Excel spreadsheet because of vulnerabilities. All right, next up, Abel wrote, "Hey Chris, hope all is well. Thank you. What are the methods to increase revenue, and how do you market a product to gain customers?" Yeah. Oof. It all depends on the company and the sector. And every sector has got a different driver you have to look at. So if it's cell phones, it's ARPU, average revenue per unit. If it's hotels, you look at RevPAR, which is revenue per available room. If it's restaurants, you look at SSS, which is same store sales. So the bottom line is we always look at organic or internally generated revenue growth. Now, when you're first getting started, I think one of the best things you can do is leverage the media by networking aggressively, which I teach in the first semester of my MBA degree program. And so what you want to do is you want to be a little bit controversial with your marketing. And if you're controversial and you network a lot and you meet with journalists by helping them, and I teach you how in my MBA program, then they can write about your product and company, which can lead to temporary spikes in revenue. So that's what I recommend. And the best way to be controversial and tasteful with your marketing is to think like Elon Musk. He's very controversial, but tasteful as well. But I want to show you Mark Benioff. Okay, so we look at Salesforce.com. This is the largest employer in San Francisco. Early advertising. And what Mark Benioff did was he actually showed a logo right here. You see here? With the word software crossed out. And nobody got it. And the media was so interested in Benioff's philosophy. And Benioff's brilliance is he made friends with the top 50 tech and finance journalists in the world. Here's no software here, see? And he got tons and tons of interviews because of it, which is free marketing, which certainly helped him to sell his company's products, big time. You also got Sir Richard Branson. Okay, Branson Tank Cola. And what Richard Branson did was when he launched Virgin Cola, which ended up not working, but what was interesting is that he actually rented a tank in the 80s and drove into Times Square, declaring war on Coca-Cola, and these are Virgin Cola products here. Right, so here it is here. Of course, you can't rent a tank these days in Times Square for obvious reasons. But he was very controversial, and it worked well for him. And the same thing with Elon Musk. Elon Musk, human robots. This is controversial. And so this is his new product. It's coming out. They'll have a test version out next year. It's very controversial. It's tasteful, though. And also, it's a great way to sell Tesla because he argues and articulates and has recently that the hardware and software in this robot is exactly the same hardware and software platform that he uses in a Tesla. Very controversial, but it's free marketing and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Just like when he was on SNL tweet Elon Musk, right? So he was very controversial. And he said, I think we'll find out how live SNL really is. And he pissed off a lot of people that work at Saturday Night Live. Here it is here. Let's find out just how live Saturday Night Live really is, right? And he got a lot of publicity because of that. So anyway, you can do it tastefully, which he certainly does. That dog is cute. Dogecoin, I guess. But the bottom line is, if you leverage the media and you're somewhat controversial and you network a lot to get meetings with journalists and help them, then you'll get free PR, which is priceless, which can help drive revenue growth as well. Yeah. Okay. And in terms of getting customers, what I would do is just go to my YouTube page or my website, harounventures.com, do a search on 5 creative ways to get customers. And on my website, I have, I'll do this quickly, I promise you. But on my website, what I have is, I have this search bar at the top, and it's also at the top of every one of my courses you take from my website. But if you search for anything here, you'll find tons of videos and resources in my MBA program as well, okay, and other downloads. And I've answered more than 10,000 questions using YouTube Live over the past couple of years, including in my MBA degree program. So any question you have, you can go here and get immediate responses. For example, the Reddit IPO, Coinbase, anything you want. I've talked about it here. So yeah. All right, let me go back here. Okay. And I can nerd out, and I can talk about the search engine I use to set that up if you're curious as well. I used to be a programmer years ago. I love it. I'm a nerd. Y'all know that. Okay, next up, Mayura wrote, I love your videos. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, moving on to V. V wrote, hi, Chris. I started your MBA program last week, and I completed 3%. Thank you. If I can keep 3% a week, I can complete the course in about 34 weeks, and I enjoy it so far. Can I comfortably retire with the S&P 500 alone? Yeah, it all depends how much money you have in the S&P. I certainly wouldn't keep all of your portfolio in the ETF SPY. I diversify. And you'll find that in the finance and accounting topics at the end of semester 1 and in semester 2, meaning FA1 and FA2 in the program, I teach you a lot about portfolio diversification, so you're not just reliant on the S&P. Thank you. Okay, Jasper, how are you? Jasper is one of my amazing MBA program students. He's from Europe. He's a massive collector of Pokemon cards, and I'm doing a segment on this now as well. And this is from my son Dylan. He collects Pokemon cards. Probably pissed off at me for touching it with my hands, not in plastic. But Jasper has collected Pokemon cards for years. He's made a fortune off of it. He's a very big Kiss fan as well. Good to see you. You wrote, I hope you have a wonderful week. Likewise, brother. All right, next up, Sanyam wrote, hey, Chris, I'm part of your MBA program. Thank you. Appreciate it. It is terrible. No, I'm just kidding. I said that. You wrote, one challenge I'm currently facing is in not being able to plan better to undertake the course effectively, since plan to fail is failing to plan. And then there's a part 2 you said here. Here we go. Do you have any course structure with minutes breakup, which could help us pardon me, better plan in taking the course better? Would it be possible to link it in the course, or is there a webcast lecture for it? Yeah. So what I would do is I would go back to the orientation session, the first class, where I provide you with a couple of templates that you can use in Microsoft OneNote, PowerPoint, LibreOffice, or PDF version. And that will help you schedule each day, including when to take classes during the day. And if that doesn't answer your question, please let me know. And you don't have to take the whole thing. Like, what you can do if you want to, the way I've set it up is there's 100 classes, and all you have to do to pass, if you care about passing, and I'm not a degree mill, but if all you want to do to pass is just take half the quizzes. And so after each class, there's a quick quiz, which is easy to do. But I think of myself as a waiter, okay? And this is where I proposed to my wife, a restaurant with this name. I think of myself as a waiter when I teach. And when you go to dinner, you don't order everything on the menu. You look at a couple items and you kind of just try it out. And so that's what I do in the program as well. You don't have to take the whole thing. I set it up so I cover every major type of business career in it. And you just take what's interesting to you. You don't have to do the whole thing in order. You can jump around a lot as well. Oops. Okay. Let's see. Next up, Craig. Craig wrote, Chris, what skills do you need to be a good consultant? Yeah. So in order to be a good consultant, you have to use frameworks. Okay. And that's what McKinsey does and all these great consulting firms. They use a lot of frameworks. And I teach it to you in such a way that these frameworks become second nature so that you can think on your feet in any interview. For example, and I call these crutches. For example, let's say that you're in an interview, any type of interview, and somebody asks you about, what are your thoughts on Apple's strategy? Well, what you can do is you can use the SWOT analysis, SWOT, and buy yourself time to think of the answer as follows. Well, in terms of Apple's new strategy with the iPhone, I'm making this up, thinking about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, let me kick it off with the strengths. I think the biggest strengths are that the new screen is 25% brighter outdoors. In terms of the weaknesses, they're still plagued with battery problems. Moving on to the opportunities, transition words, right? Moving on to the opportunities. There's definitely a market for a smaller mini iPad, which they came out, which is kind of like a bigger version of the iPhone. And lastly, the threats. The threats are that a lot of people are upset with Apple's new security protocols with iOS 14.8 that you have to download. That sort of thing. So what I just did there, and I made it up, was I just used a framework and a crutch, okay? And a crutch to buy you time to think of the answers. Now, let me show you an example of one of the many frameworks I give away in my MBA degree program to help you become more successful. So right here, this here is one of the frameworks. And for those of you in the MBA program, I teach this in EMS 4-2, meaning Economics Management and Strategy, semester 4, class number 2. And this here is 100 steps to analyzing a company. And I made this in Excel. It's one of the many downloads you get. And there are little videos you can click, tons of videos to explain how things work. So here to talk about catalysts, yada, yada, whatever. It's a year. I explain it with a shorter haircut. But when it comes to consulting frameworks, what you want to do is you want to focus up here. So there's 3 categories of frameworks here in this 100-step analysis file for you. Up here you got qualitative, then you got quantitative, then you got financials. So you're going to stick up here in the qualitative section, okay? And there's different frameworks here, like the product lifecycle framework, the BCG, Boston Consulting Group framework, the SWOT analysis I just talked about, etc. And the outputs from this are, once you enter in all the questions, you get a massive dashboard as well with dummy data in it, right? And then also an executive summary comes out of it, which some of you have seen in my other courses here. And if you hit print, it automatically prints just what just this PDF if you want. And then also there's a 150-page report that comes out of it. If you do your research like this before a consulting interview and show somebody this, your chance of getting hired go up a lot. And of course, I provide you with many more templates or hours in your quiver or tools in your toolbox in my MBA program, so that regardless of the interview you're going to, you'll be able to ace it using something like this. You'll be able to ace your case. All right, give me 1 second to get back on track here. All right. Next up, David Yurman. How are you, David? I smile because my wife, Christine, she has fake David Yurman jewelry as well. She bought. Yeah, it's a cool name. So David wrote here, Chris, good morning, and thank you for your time. Good morning to you as well. I have a small business that I'm growing. I would like to know, should I get a company CC or continue buying from my personal pocket? You mean company credit card? Yeah, I got you. Okay, yeah. So, no. So here's how I set up my business. To make it simplistic, I have 2 credit cards. One is my personal credit card, and one is my corporate credit card. If I think something is definitely a corporate expense, I put it on my corporate card. If it's personal, I put it on my personal card. Then at the end of the year, and never do your own accounting. At the end of the year, I tell my accountant, here's my username and password for my Amex and my Visa. Download all that data. And then we also use QuickBooks as well, so my accountant can download all the data and file taxes for me. Never do your own personal taxes, and never, of course, do your own corporate taxes. Why? Because a good accountant can find enough loopholes legally and help you save a ton of money. And the accounting profession exists because the tax rules change all the time. And there's no centralized repository for us to hire an accountant. You just have to ask your successful friends, aunts, uncles, whatever. Who do they use? Yeah. All right, next up, I've got Anonymous, who wrote, hi, Chris. It's good to see you. Thank you, Anon. Appreciate it. Okay, Abhishek wrote, I have an interest in learning the stock market. Should I go for an MBA? Yeah. So let me not sell my program and let me talk about traditional MBAs. So the only reason you should consider doing a traditional MBA, which costs $100,000, it's expensive and I don't think it's worth it. The only reason you should consider that is if you set up 100 meetings, networking meetings, and you can't change careers after doing 100 networking meetings. 100 sounds like a lot, I know. But think about each one of those meetings as saving you $1,000. So 100 meetings times 1,000 is $100,000. That's the cost of a traditional MBA. Yeah. Okay. But I teach you all about the stock market and much, much more in my MBA degree program. And my stuff's always humbly up to date. And I'm always adding new stuff that you'll get for free forever, like the option stuff I'm adding later this year. Yeah. All right, next up, Christina, how are you? Christina is one of my amazing MBA degree students, and we always compete with each other, and competition's good for the consumer. The consumer is your heart, in this case. We compete with each other in terms of how much water have we drank and how many steps have we taken so far. And so Christina, who lives here in South San Francisco with her husband, Christian, and their wonderful daughter, Bella, and Christian works at Sony PlayStation. Great guy. He's also in the program. So Christina wrote, "Good morning, Chris, and weekly Office Hours Webcast family. And thank you for joining Discord last night, too. Appreciate that." And you wrote, "Hope you're having an outstanding week so far. Cheers, Chris. I'm at 10 a.m. and only 257 steps so far. I hope your ACL is feeling better." For me, I'm at 11. In terms of my steps, and I wear an Apple Watch in my pocket. I'm not doing well this morning because I got to get my 10,000 steps in. But my steps today, I'm at only 271. So I'm a couple steps ahead of you. Yeah. But I've taken about 15 million steps on this cheap treadmill below me over the past 2 years or so, and I do about 20,000 steps per day. Alexa, what's 20,000 times 365 times 2?
20,000 times 365 times 2 is 14.6 million.
Yeah, it's amazing how it adds up. And it helps me a lot with my energy as well. All right. And then Christina said, "Chris, I love the British Airways Visit Mum commercial. Every time I watch it, it always makes me tear up. Definitely powerful and pulls on my heartstrings." Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, it's a great commercial. Yeah, appealing to emotion in business is crucial. Yeah, and anytime you can make a corporation seem more like a person and vulnerable, it's better. It's kind of like whenever you're up there presenting in front of a large crowd. If you mess up, like I've done a couple times today already, you maybe you're more likable because you seem more human and more vulnerable. Yeah, I'm certainly vulnerable this morning too. Yeah. All right. I love my coffee. Like, I'll go to bed some nights. I'm like, I can't wait to wake up to have my coffee, and this is all I get, just this amount every single day. Yeah. Next up, we got Manas from India who wrote, "How do you decide about?" Thank you for spelling it correctly. How do you decide about which courses to make? Yeah. Like what kind of market research do you do? Surveys or something else? Thanks. God bless you and your family forever. Thank you for the icons too. Yeah. So I always think, and I'll answer this generically to apply to everybody as always. I think before you start a new product, service or company, whatever it is, you got to look at the size of the market, and the total addressable market must be massive. It has to be a big market, otherwise you're wasting your time. For example, in the early days, one of my first courses was about hedge funds, and it didn't sell well at all. And so I basically took 4 hours out of it, and I called that Introduction to Finance and Accounting, and that course sold many, many times more. And it's only half the size, because more people want to learn about finance and accounting than people want to learn about hedge funds. So think about a total addressable market. I also do send surveys to my customers using surveymonkey.com, and I get market research that way by asking my students, which course do you want me to teach of the following 5? Yeah. And I mine the data as well. I pay close attention to it. And I only teach stuff that I'm passionate about. Like there was, at one point I was making this massive course called the Complete Management Course. And I just wasn't passionate about it, so I scrapped it. Yeah. But I teach about all management topics in the MBA program now. Yeah. All right. All right. And Sanya, earlier on, I asked what shows should I watch on Netflix because I've run out of stuff to watch. I watch too much Netflix. And you said you recommend Shoemaker on Netflix. Thank you. I'll take a screen print of that. Command-Shift-4. Thank you. I'll check it out. Okay. Okay. Next up, Dinesh wrote, I like you, even I started my career at Accenture, sorry. I was hired as a software engineer, but I got projects in the consulting vertical, and I worked with consultants and strategy people. Looking back, I feel glad I took on that opportunity. I learned a lot. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't recommend doing consulting, working at a consulting firm when you have kids, because they work you hard and they make you travel a lot. It's like the army. When there's a war, you go fight wherever the war is. And Accenture has an army of consultants, and they work you hard. I'm glad I did it in hindsight, but you're grossly underpaid compared to how much they bill you for. And so I made $9 an hour back in 1994 when I lived in Ottawa, in Canada, when I worked at Accenture, and they billed me out like $100 or $150 per hour. It was criminal. But I learned a ton, and I used them like they used me as a stepping stone. Yeah. And there's more than 100,000 consulting firms in America. It's a very fragmented industry. And so if it's you and you're giving advice to a customer, think about setting up your own consulting firm. The tax benefits are great, and get a lawyer to do all the registration first. Go to LegalZoom.com. Yeah. I'm not sponsored by anybody, nor will I ever be. My customers use my student. And has that hurt my growth? Oh, big time. Do I care? No. Because the second it becomes only about the money is the second I pack it in. You, my student, are my customer, no corporation. Okay. This segment is sponsored to you by Lip Balm. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Next up, I've got... All right, hold on a second here. All right, hold on a second, guys. Sorry. All right, yeah. Next up, I've got here Abhishek, who wrote, I want to know Chris Haroun's view on crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Yeah. So I publicly disclosed years ago the 4 cryptos I own and that I'm never selling. Okay. So Bitcoin, Litecoin, which there's a stupid rumor Walmart was going to buy them the other day. Moronic. So Bitcoin, Litecoin. Litecoin's like Bitcoin's little brother, little sister. It's for smaller transactions and it's faster. I'm buying time to think of what I own. I also own Ripple. The founder lives around the corner from me. And lastly, Ethereum, which is my favorite one, or Ether. I mine Ether at home. So I own those, yeah. Do I buy when everyone else is buying? No. I buy when the whole world's freaking out. I buy when the VIX spikes to an all-time high, which I'll be teaching about in more detail in my options course. And yes, I'm going to teach you how to use options with all cryptocurrencies in that course as well. Yeah. All right, next up, Sadiq wrote, hey, Chris, how are you? I'm always great, thanks. I hope you're doing well. What's your view on the CFA, and how important is it to get into valuation? Yeah. So for those who are not familiar with the CFA, it's better than an MBA when it comes to finance. The CFA stands for the Certified Financial Analyst designation. It's a 3-year program. You study at night. There's no classes for it. You study at night, and you write 3 exams over 3 years. And then you're a CFA charter holder. And Wall Street and the investing world loves it much more than an MBA, I think at least. I respect it much more. Yeah. If you're going to do it, don't waste your money buying the textbooks they tell you to buy. Go to eBay and do a search on Schweizer. Spell check has to help me with that. Schweizer CFA books. It's $30 for the books. You can buy them used. And they're a small number of books, workbooks, instead of paying $500 for the textbooks. Okay. And Schweizer is owned by Kaplan, which is owned by the Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos. Yeah. All right. Next up, I've got Sadiq, who wrote, by the way, it's been long. I'm from your Complete Financial Analyst course. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. And you wrote, thank you for all the efforts on the course. I really admire the way you teach. Thank you. And I pride myself on teaching based on experience and not teaching theory like supply and demand graphs, which nobody uses in the real world unless you're an economist. Thank you. Next up, I got Noman. Good to see you again, Noman. Noman wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're well. Likewise. How did you make the Excel file that you go through for the complete business planning course? How long did it take you to make such an Excel file? Yeah, I've been using Excel for years. When I used to work on Wall Street, I created a gazillion financial models in my life. In terms of how long that took me, probably a couple of weeks. Yeah. And it's more simple than other people's Excel documents because I don't believe in using Visual Basic or macros in it because code creates vulnerabilities. Yeah. But I love it. But wait till you see the Excel spreadsheet in the options course coming out soon. It's the most ambitious thing I've ever done. Yeah. It's fun. I nerded out. And Sadiq wrote, you definitely have a lot of students from India just like me. Yeah. Thank you. 11% of my students are from India. Yeah. And United States, I think it's now under 30%. Yeah, it keeps getting smaller and smaller. I've got students in every country. Yeah. And then you wrote, I'm from Delhi. Please do visit India and let us know. Thank you. I will for sure, dude. I remember I gave a guest lecture when I was in Delhi. I think it was in May or June of 2016. And I was giving the lecture and there was an earthquake, which is very rare for Delhi, as you know. And everybody looked at me and they said, what do we do? They thought, you're from San Francisco. You get earthquakes all the time. It was a minor earthquake. We were fine. But I loved it. It was so peaceful, man. There was cows in the streets and monkeys. I loved it. It was just peace. Loved it. India changes you when you go there. Yeah. All right. Next up, Sadiq wrote, I read that one already. Let me move on. Next up, we got Sarthik. Sarthik wrote, hey, Chris, my parents are abusive. I'm sorry to hear this. But my parents are abusive, manipulative, and are not supportive of anything I want to do. I want to be financially free at an early age and move out of my country. Can you give me some advice? Well, first of all, send me an email to support@harounventures.com and I'll set up an hour-long one-on-one Zoom call with you and I'll give you my MBA program and everything I have for free. So let's set that up. But generally speaking, I think it's important to be respectful to your parents, but also to stand your ground and let them know why you want to do something. Okay. Now, I hope when you say abusive, you mean just verbally abusive and nothing more than that. I always try to see things from both perspectives. You know, people are rational. Why do they act the way they act? And a lot of parents want us to become doctors or, God forbid, lawyers or engineers because they want you to be able to support yourself. But what I recommend doing is sitting down with your parents and the three of you watch the movie 3 Idiots. It's a Bollywood movie. It's the highest grossing Bollywood movie of all time. It's a little bit long. Everybody has to watch that movie. Everybody in this call. Okay. 3 Idiots. It's life-changing. I laughed and I cried multiple times during it. The bottom line message from that movie is you have to let your kids choose what they're most passionate about doing in life. Otherwise, when you have small kids, you have small problems. And when you have big kids, you have big problems. And so I would articulate to your parents why you want to choose a career. Okay. And it's your life, not theirs. But if you want their approval, I know it's tough. I was interviewed in the New York Times recently, and the reason I did the interview is because my dad reads it every day, and I wanted approval, and I wanted him to open up the newspaper and say, "Oh, Jackie, Habibi, Chris is in the New York Times. I still hate him." I'm just kidding about that last part about being in the New York Times. But you can, if you want approval, you can just kind of explain to them in especially your mother, that you're passionate about a certain career and you love it. And here's examples of people that have done well in this industry. And this is my life. This is what I'm going to do. And I love you. And if you don't support me, I still love you. But this is what I'm going to do. And don't be afraid to fail. You know, Michael Jordan said, I failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Take chances. And don't give a damn what your friends or anybody thinks of you if you fail. Fail enough times, you'll be successful longer term. But let's talk in that one-on-one meeting and get my courses and everything for free, because I love my students. I want to help you. And I hope the abuse side is just verbal. Okay, next up, Ali wrote, hey, Chris, I'm super glad I finally signed up for the MBA Haroun program. Hooray. Thank you. I hope you enjoy it, or your money back. Thank you. Thank you. And if anybody has signed up, and I had a sale recently, if it's not adding an insane amount of value, just get a refund. And don't worry, I don't look at who gets a refund. I don't care. But I want to help you. And I think it will help you tremendously. Yeah. Frederick Mendoza, who's in my MBA program. Fred, how are you, man? Good to see you. Fred has been giving me a lot of invaluable advice on my options course coming out soon. He's been beta testing it with me. He's awesome. He lives in Baltimore. He works in the healthcare sector, and he's very passionate about investments as well. And he started doing some great networking we've talked about. Yeah. Let me know how that's going, the networking with those 300 people on that list we talked about. Okay. Next up, Ali said, now that I'm under the MBA, now that I'm in the MBA class, do I still go through your other courses I got on Udemy and Haroun Ventures? You can. It's all new material, the MBA program. But I teach everything in the MBA program in a completely different way, using a lot of new props, etc. Yeah. Okay, moving on to Senyam, who wrote here, which free website would you refer us to know about industry trends? Yeah. You have to let me know exactly what industry you're talking about. And I don't want you guys to ever pay for any news online. You can get it all for free, okay? And I'll show you how quickly. All right, so let's say you go to, and this doesn't work for all websites. Let's say you go to ft.com, which is like the international version of the Wall Street Journal. And let's say you want to, read about this, which I absolutely love. It's all about China, United Kingdom, and Australia getting together to share defense technology to keep a certain country in check. So say you want to read this, okay? So you click here, and you're like, no, I don't want to pay to read about keeping China in check. I don't want to pay for that. What you do is this. You copy this, okay? Copy. And then what you do is you paste it, and then you search right here. And then you click here, and hey, look at that. You can read it for free. Why does that work? Well, it works because if the FT didn't let that happen, then from an SEO, search engine optimization perspective, you wouldn't be able to access their articles. There's paywalls in other companies. It doesn't work with the Wall Street Journal. But anyway, if you want industry research, I would go here. Yeah. But let me know the exact industry, and I'll give you more details on that. Yeah. All right, next up, Sarlik wrote, hey, Chris, can you give me some advice on Solana so that I can do research on it later? I've gotten that question before, which means I have to make a vlog on it. I don't know anything about that, so I don't feel comfortable talking about it. Yeah, I'll do my research. Thank you. And I think it was, actually, I have a student named Peyton. He's in my MBA program. You know what I'll do is I'll bring Peyton on to do an interview, okay, on a future webcast. For you, Sarlik, to talk about Solana, because he's an expert in that area. Yeah, and a good guy too, and very well spoken. Okay, and then next up, Sarlik wrote, hey, Chris, I want to accomplish my vision of what I want to become, but for that, I need a little wealth to move out of my country. Can you give me advice on how to build wealth in my early 20s? Yeah. Whew. So, you got to develop a mentality, like Warren Buffett says, of spending what is left after saving. instead of saving what is left after spending. And just understand the concepts of the time value of money. You know, every penny you save today is worth a hell of a lot more in the future. And so if you're curious about learning more about that, I have this free template that I gave away recently. And the way to access the template is just go to my YouTube channel. Let me go there with you. Hold on. YouTube, right here. All right. And then scroll down and then click here on the blueprint for personal, professional success. And I talk about the template in there that you can download it as well. I think it's really helpful. Okay. All right. Next up, Sanium said, Chris, is it possible to have a content page like Udemy, which links the minutes in each part of each section? It would provide us with minutes per section and hence plan based on that to be able using Excel. Yeah. So the best way to access the content of the MBA program or anything I've ever taught or any vlog is just go here to the top, okay, of my website and do a search for, I don't know, anything. So say you want to learn about the income statement. You search here. I've had plenty of vlogs over the years here about the income statement. And then here, my MBA degree program, you can go through the lessons when I talk about income statement. And here in brackets is the time as well. And this is kind of a dupe because I talk about income statement a lot in that topic. That's what I recommend. Yeah. But I will add that functionality because you're not the first person to ask. Thank you. Yeah, I'll add an index. Yeah, with the times on everything. I'll do that soon. I promise you. Thank you for asking. Okay. Next up, Samir wrote, "Hey Chris, you're a great presenter. Thank you. For the initial topics of the webcast, do you speak from memory alone, or do you have bullets or something on the screen?" No, I have it on a screen. So I've actually got a couple of different systems here. And you won't be able to see this. Let me see if I can pull this up. So this is, okay, these are old towels, okay? And what I've got here is, in this box, is I have this clicker, okay? And the clicker here is, and the reason I have the box set up like this, because I don't want you to hear the clicking noises, which sounds like this. Okay, and it's just USB based. I plug it into my computer. It's like a mouse, kind of. And this here is where I click to go back a slide or forward a slide to read it or look at the bullet points at least. And so that's what I do. And I have a bunch of other pedals as well down below to turn off the lights or do kind of more dramatic lighting on either side and all that stuff. So it's all automated. And so with that pedal thing I just showed you, and you can use that during interviews too, right? No one's going to know you're reading stuff. But with the pedals, what I do is I kind of run through bullet points to talk about. And then with my other hand, I actually, what I do is I click through slides, right? So with my other hand, I put the mouse up top there and I dropped it. It shattered, but it still works. With my other hand, I'll actually click through the slides, right? So, yeah. Yeah, and the way I know to click through a slide is on the teleprompter here, I put in brackets click. So I've got a couple of presentations going at the same time. Yeah, so that's how I do it. It's a little bit complex the way I've set it up. I've had years of practice, years of making lots of mistakes on this weekly webcast. But that's how I do it. Yeah. All right. Give me 1 second, because when I click with those pedals, it jumped all over the place for questions. So I'll do a search on teleprompter, I think. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. All right, so give me 1 second to find out where I was, guys. Sorry. This is where people usually drop off the call. That's okay. Momento, por favor. Almost there. All right. Okay, I found it. Okay, good. All right. Okay, great. Here we go. All right, next up I've got, and if I missed your question, post it again. Sarthik wrote, how do you make your coffee, Chris? Yeah. So what I do is I use something called bulletproof coffee. Okay. And I'll show you exactly how I buy it and all that stuff too. So some people might think it's a placebo, what I'm about to show you. But what I do is I buy this coffee from a company called Bulletproof. It's a Canadian company, represents. And what I love about it is that there's no mold on the coffee. Okay, so when you buy the coffee, like here it is right here. When you buy the coffee, it's made in such a way so there's no preservatives. And a lot of times people will drink coffee and they'll get that rush, and then basically they'll crash. And they crash hard because there's a lot of preservatives in the coffee. This doesn't have preservatives in it. Okay. And then what I also do is I put in this. It's MCT oil. It's like coconut oil. And if you do it, please do your research. Talk to a doctor first. But you put a tiny bit in at first every day. Otherwise, you'll get a stomachache. But I put a tablespoon of it. Okay, it's the first thing I consume in the morning. And what I also put in my coffee is I put this. Okay, grass-fed butter. It doesn't have to be from Bulletproof. You can buy any butter you want. And I prepare it the night before. And I set up my Ninja coffee machine so that when I wake up, it's ready. And I'll show you. Ninja coffee machine. Let's see here. Here it is here. Yeah. So this is the coffee machine I use and I recommend. I like it. So the reason I like using it is you can time when your coffee is set up, but more importantly, it's kind of hard to see, but on the side of it, you can see right there, there's a stir. You push a button and it can stir the coffee as well. Yeah. So I prepare everything the night before. When I wake up, this is ready. This is ready. The water I do the night before when I'm brain dead, and this is in the fridge. So I got everything ready for me, so I'm good to go in the morning when I'm fresh. Yeah. So that's how I do it. All right. And then Sarthik wrote, Chris, I recommend watching Great Teacher Onizuka on Netflix. It's an anime, but it's very emotional, funny, and motivating. Thank you. And I can't wait till the Ozark comes out. And the Morning Show, season 2, comes out on Apple TV later this month. But what I'm looking forward to most this year is the October release of Age of Empires 4, which I already ordered it on Steam. I can't wait to download it. Yeah. All right. And then Craig wrote here, Chris, I found you on Udemy, and I ended up buying, pardon me, 6-year finance courses, but I don't see the investment research dashboard you had up earlier. Should I have gotten the MBA course from your website? Yeah, that framework and all my frameworks, they're just in my MBA degree program. And you can go to learn.harounventures.com to access it there. Yeah, learn.harounventures.com. And I have a subscription plan as well. Yeah. Myron, how are you? Myron is one of my amazing students she lives in the United Kingdom. She's from Kenya originally. And next year we're building a school in honor of her wonderful mother, who's watching her right now. So proud of you. We're building a school in Kenya. And Myron has a couple of amazing business plans that we're talking about as well. Yeah. Thank you. Good to see you. And I think we have a one-on-one later today, too. I'm looking forward to chatting with you. All right, next up, I got Hui, who wrote, what are some characteristics of an excellent mentor? Yeah. An excellent mentor is willing to share, his or her successes and failures, and how you can learn to be more successful than they are by not making the same mistakes that they've made. And I'm talking right now to people out there that work for jerks, what I'm about to say next, because I've been there too. I know how frustrating it is. When you work for a jerk, you can learn how not to manage people. There are good lessons to learn there. Or learn how not to run a team or how not to manage a business. And if you work for a jerk, and I've been there, don't worry, because it's actually healthy, and I'll tell you why. Because it motivates you. It motivates you to find a better job, or better yet, start your own company. And if I can humbly help you start your own company or get a better job, then I've done my job. And if you're stuck in a rut working for a schmuck, I want you to download a course of mine for free right now. Go to harounventures.com. I'll show you. We'll go there together. Because I've been there, and I care. I have empathy in my heart for you. You go to harounventures.com / all lowercase, complete job, all lowercase. And what you can do is you can download this course. And I promise you it'll help you. I promise you. Yeah. But I've been there many, many times. I've worked for schmucks. I remember coming home complaining to Christine, this guy's just a jerk. And, in hindsight, I'm so grateful to God that I work for a schmuck because it guided me down a different path. And it led me to start this. Yeah. Okay. And the schmuck I'm talking about is a boss I had in New York City years ago. And I'll never name the person. Okay. All right, next up, Sadiq wrote, hey, Chris, second question related to the first. What do you recommend for someone who wants to learn and not really after any certification like a CFA? So if you're interested in finance and you want to learn, just take my courses. Or if you don't sign up for my courses, go to my website, harounventures.com, and search for any finance topic at the top, as I teach about everything there. Yeah. Okay. And then Sarthik wrote, yes, I agree. I'll always be respectful to my parents, but I want to live my life under my terms and condition. Yes. Yeah. I'm with you. And if we connect live over a one-on-one meeting, well, I'm happy to talk to you in more details. Yeah. And I hope it's just verbal abuse and nothing more. Yeah. And Marin wrote, Chris, the Bank of England stated that inflation is at 3.2%, which is a whole 1% increase from last month. How do you advise to insulate yourself against inflation? Yeah. So these are interesting times we live in. And we've never seen an environment where the government has let inflation get out of control like this on purpose. And the reason why governments are doing this, and I'll explain how you can invest to avoid getting hurt by inflation in a second. The reason governments are doing this all over the world, letting inflation creep up, is because governments can't cut interest rates anymore, right? They can't cut interest rates anymore. And they know that because of COVID, they better just back off and make easy money available to everybody. And if a byproduct of that is the price of semiconductors and every products, goes up a bunch because of inflation, then so be it. Because what could be more disastrous is raising rates too early. And if another version of the Delta variant hits the market, for example, then we're all screwed. And that's why the market's at an all-time high right now. Because the governments have run out of bullets, so to speak, to try to stimulate or jumpstart the economy. They can't cut rates anymore. And there's only so many stimulus programs they can provide us with before countries go bankrupt or have to raise taxes way too much, like Biden is doing. So what happens is the only way to stimulate the economy now, because we've run out of bullets, is to actually use the wealth effect, which means this. If rates are 0% and everybody owns stocks, and stocks go up a lot, then everyone feels richer, it's self-fulfilling, and everybody spends more, which helps the economy. Yeah. Now, moving on to your question, pardon me. Moving on to your question about how to protect yourself from inflation. There's something called TIPS, Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. And basically what that means is these treasuries, these government bonds, go up in value by the interest rate on the bonds that you buy them at, plus whatever inflation is, they go up that much as well. So check out TIPS. And there's probably a version of that the Bank of England creates as well. Yeah. So you might want to search for what is the United Kingdom equivalent of Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. Yeah. Okay. All right. Himanshu, how are you? Himanshu, hey Chris, good to see you. Good to see you as well. And I mentored a guy when I worked at Accenture named Himanshu. He's Indian, but he's from Russia. Great guy. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, working on the merger of Nations Bank and Bank of America. Next up, Sadiq wrote, I'm sorry, Sardik. And Sardik earlier on the call said his parents are being abusive. Sadiq said, I'm sorry, Sardik, but I really feel that misunderstandings can be sorted when we discuss things with the person and getting to know what they expect from us and what we expect from them. Yeah. And then you wrote here, I mean, getting to know each other's expectations and then making adjustments accordingly almost always works. I hope things get better for you. I'm sorry, but I'm not judging you. Yeah. And that's kind of like collective bargaining or arbitration as well, where you have two parties and one party in the middle. It's like marriage counseling. They kind of help you understand each person's perspective. Yeah. And if you get a chance, watch the movie Old School. And there's one marriage counseling scene with Will Ferrell that always has me cry laughing. Yeah. All right. Next up, Ali wrote, I just sent my resignation email at this consulting firm I've been working at. I found that the environment was very toxic and I couldn't take it anymore. 30th of September is my last day. I feel so great. I know it feels good to resign. And I remember I worked at Accenture and I was already leaving anyway. I had something else planned. And there was this associate partner when I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, working on the merger of Nations Bank and Bank of America. And he was such a schmuck sometimes. Like he would say, this weekend, what you're going to be working on is this, right? Like assuming I'm not going home for the weekend to see my family and friends. And I'll never forget it. I was in front of a bunch of buddies, and they all knew I was leaving, but he didn't. And he said, "And so, Chris, you're going to head up the deployment team this weekend when we test launch the product." And I said, "Actually, I can't because I'm golfing with my buddies." And he looked at me and he goes, "Oh, very well then. Enjoy your game of golf." Yeah, it was kind of fun. Yeah. Feels good though, eh? Feels good to leave. And because you were so frustrated there, I'm sure that forced you and put pressure on you. I say I love my heart to find a better gig. Yeah. All right. Okay. And so earlier on, Senium asked me a question. How do I do research on a sector? And I asked what sector. And he wrote here, education and financial services. Yeah. So there's plenty of reports that have been written about those sectors. So if it's on the tech side, you want to search for Gartner reports, okay, or Forrester reports on the sector. If it's non-tech related and you just want high-level overviews, you can search for McKinsey reports on the education sector or financial services sector. And what you can also do is get the 5 or 10 biggest companies in that sector, okay, and then listen to their earnings calls or read their annual reports to learn more about the sector. And you can always go to, and I'll show you here, and this is applicable to everybody, you can always go to sec.gov, and then what you can do is learn more about companies this way. So say you're doing, I don't know, you want to learn about the financial services sector. So you enter in here ticker JPM, JP Morgan. And then what you can do is for JP Morgan, you can then search for 10K. And that's basically the annual reports. And you can read the 10K from the past 20 years. You click through it and you'll be able to read up exactly what is JP Morgan, you know, the financial services sector. And they're a globally diversified firm, so they have their fingers in lots of different financial services pies, etc. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Okay. All right, next up, I've got A, the letter A, wrote, "Hey, Chris, how are you, dear sir? I'm great, thank you. Hope you're doing well. I want to ask that attending dinner schools at Harvard and delegate submit by Harvard, will it add value for me for my master's abroad later and getting into Goldman?" Yeah. And then you said, "I'm getting into top 3 undergrad college in India for commerce. I'm planning to attend these to make my resume more beautiful and best." Yeah, I think that whenever you write an application and get into a university, and I'm going through it right now with my son, Andrew, he's working hard on them. It's up to him if he wants to go. It's not my call. And I'll never tell him what he should be in life. It's his life, not mine. But when you write these letters, okay, or when you write your essays for universities, what I want you to do is I want you to reach out to people that graduate from that school, or they're in that school, or they head up a club in that school. And I want you to talk to them. And in your essay, I want you to talk about that as well, because it shows commitment that, hey, I'm going the extra mile. And as you write your essays, I just want you to think to yourself, how can I diversify the student body, given my unique international experiences, so to speak? And that's how admissions officials think. And best of luck to you as well. Okay. Next up, Sarah wrote, if the world can get more teachers like you, Chris, this would become so much better for everyone. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I can never forget the advice you give, and will definitely meet you if I ever come to the United States. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. God bless you. Thank you. Okay. Next up, what were the chances? Somebody by the name J.P. Morgan Chase UBS D. Shaw. Okay, so let me read this correctly. J.P. Morgan Chase, UBS, and D.E. Shaw also recruit students at college, which I'll be admitted to. Yeah. And then you wrote, sir, I want to take my exposure to the next level. So what do you recommend? Yeah. So, okay. And so for those of you not familiar with D.E. Shaw, that's where Jeff Bezos started his career after Princeton. He worked there. And I went to literally the same office he went to and interviewed for that same job he had after he left. It's so funny. Except he has 10 more zeros beside his name than I do. And everything in that office was either black or green with lights. It was kind of eerie. Yeah. And the way that I got that informational meeting at D.E. Shaw was networking, right? And so my wife, she knew somebody that worked there. And so his name was Julian. And I networked to get that interview. And a lot of these places I've interviewed at over the years, I've networked and interviewed at just by talking to friends that knew people who knew people that worked there. And so what I recommend doing is going back to the beginning of today's webcast and watch the very first story I talked about, which is called How to Change Careers Regardless of Your Age, and use that methodology. I promise you it works. And in that first session, I talked about doing 100 informational meetings. And a lot of people will never do that, and they'll think, Chris, that's overkill. But you got to ask yourself, how badly do you want that job? Or how badly do you want to get into that school, whatever it is? Yeah. The world has changed. You can't just send in your resume. It doesn't work that way anymore because thousands of other people do it. And the people that get the jobs are the ones that know somebody there usually. So get to know people there by networking. I promise you it works. Okay. All right. Next question is, I want to take my exposure to the next level. So what do you recommend? Yeah. So I think the only way to reach your full potential in life is to become a thought leader. So how do you become a thought leader? Well, it's like the Rodin sculpture. Think like a thought leader. I think, therefore I am. And what you have to do is you have to write articles on LinkedIn every week on whatever it is you're passionate about in business. And this is what I did. And anybody, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And so for about 2 years, I wrote an article every week on something about business. And after 2 years, I had 104 articles. And I put them together in a book called 101 Crucial Lessons They Don't Teach You in Business School. And I felt like I was screaming into the wind at first. Like no one was looking at it, nobody was liking it, whatever. But I didn't care. It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Yeah. So, and then what I did eventually was I became a subject matter expert humbly. And I took all of those articles and I threw it together in this book. And then eventually the media calls, you get interviews, whatever it is, because you talked a lot about stuff. And I'm nothing special. Anybody can do this. So what I want you to do is I want you to write one article per week on LinkedIn. And then I want you to use my template and make a book. It's a 6-inch by 9-inch template. Many of my students have done it. I'll show it to you very quickly. So after you write all your articles over 2 years, whatever it is, you go to my website / all lowercase, write book. Okay? Whoops, I spelled that wrong. Here it is here. And you download this book template I have, okay? And it's Microsoft Word with 1 page of instructions for free to tell you how to publish it on Kindle, publish it on Amazon Paper, and publish it on Amazon Audible, ACX. Okay, you put all your stuff here, and then you just put it in your table of contents, right-click, repaginate, and you're done. It's free to do. And you can go to job interviews or informational meetings or meetings with customers with your book and give it to them. Or if you're applying to university, you can mail in this book as well. And I know it's a lot of work, but nobody does that. And how badly do you want that job? Yeah. Or that customer? Okay. And that's how you increase your exposure level a lot. Yeah. And then what you do is you, kind of like what Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, you repurpose your content. And that's what I did. So I took each chapter of this and I turned it into a vlog, right? Kind of like I repurposed this weekly call onto my podcast and other media formats as well so that I can work smarter, not harder. Yeah. All this stuff is free to do. Yeah. And then Vibor wrote, that was really awesome. Thank you. All right. And give me 1 second here. How are we doing on time? 10:38. I never check the time doing these things. Kind of like I know that I know I'm watching a great movie when I go to the theater, and I don't check my watch at all. Yeah. This is a great movie. All right. And if I missed anybody, paste it again. So now I'm up to Satons, who's Mark, who's one of my amazing MBA students. He lives in Detroit. He's a future tech guy, and his business model is just like the movie Dune. It's mining commodities and rare materials on asteroids, which is going to become a market one day for sure. He's long-term focused like Elon. And so Mark wrote here, "Hey brother, hope all is fabulous with you today. Likewise, buddy. What vitamins and herbs do you think do you take from Ray Kurzweil? Thanks to Trillion." Yeah. Yeah, absolutely did. So Ray Kurzweil. So I've got a couple of them here. So I take 4 vitamins daily from Ray. And Ray Kurzweil, by the way, he's this guy that talks about life extension. He's the head of engineering now at Google. And so I take resveratrol from him, which is there are elements of that in red wine. I don't drink anymore, but I don't drink any less. No. Resveratrol, which basically slows down aging. You can't reverse aging. You can slow it down. This is one of them here. And you can actually find it on Amazon. Just do a search for Kurzweil anti-aging multi-pack. Yeah. Okay. Great to see you, bud. Okay. Okay, next up, Tone wrote, "I just want to thank you for the crypto course. You're most welcome. And it's the first time I've seen this call, and I hope you join us again. And thank you again." Okay, Jing wrote, "Hey Chris, I'm your MBA student, and I'm really enjoying learning the content. Thank you. I apply it to my daily life. Thanks. I hope you feel better soon. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you." All right. And next up, we got Sarthik, who wrote, "Good luck." Oh, you're talking to another student. Okay, cool. Okay, next up, letter A wrote, "I want to do a Master of Science in Finance from MIT or any other financial major from Harvard. Many seniors of my college go to Oxford, Harvard, LSE, which is London School of Economics, which is where Mick Jagger went, LBS, which is London Business School." Yeah. And I bet you a lot of your friends that go to those schools, I bet you they have a relative that went there, got them in. Yeah. And you don't have to go to those schools to reach your full potential in life. I promise you, if you network aggressively, you can run circles around them. Yeah. All right. And you wrote here, "I then want to work at a hedge fund at $600,000 salary and marry a blonde wife." Yeah. So let me explain hedge funds and the compensation structure. So hedge funds, basically, they pay a base salary, a lot of them, of close to $100,000. And you're like, oh my God, it's a lot of money. Well, in New York City, it's expensive to live in New York City. Yeah. And if you do well, you get a bonus. If you don't, if you lose money that year, you don't get a bonus next year until you make back that money if you still have a job. Yeah. Make sure that whatever job you want to get, don't ask how to get it. Ask yourself why. Why do I want that? And I promise you, if it's just because you want to make a lot of money, you'll never be happy. I promise you. I've lived it. Okay. Then you wrote, thank you. May you also achieve your dreams. This is my dream. I'm living my dream right. I have to pinch myself sometimes. I love doing what I'm doing. Dude, it is getting cold in here. Okay. Anurag said, "Hey Chris, greetings. Would you like to share about the financial success you had with your firm and hedge funds you started in terms of revenue and profits?" Yeah, I don't want to talk about money. Thank you though. Okay. And Dinesh wrote here, Apple is really struggling to innovate with the iPhone, and the iPhone 13 really showed it. They had nothing new to talk about. What do you think? Yeah. So I looked at it quite closely. And although the product looks the same, right? One of the lenses is a little bit diagonal in the back. If you're an avid photographer and videographer, it's insane what they've done. Okay, with the Apple ProRes format, and also if it's hard for you to see outdoors with these things outdoors, a new version of the iPhone is 25% brighter. Right, that's pretty important to me. I'm not going to get it though. I don't need it, but if I had problems seeing outdoors, I'd think about it. Right, the screen is brighter. Also, from a refresh rate, it's 120 hertz per second, 120 hertz refresh rate. So gamers love it because of that. But I can't tell the difference. And my phone is fast enough anyway for the simplistic games I play. My Major League Baseball home run derby I play every day, or Clash of Clans, which I still play every day. It's been 4 years now. Yeah. So I don't think it's worth it for me. But what I did like about their presentation yesterday was the iPad Mini. I know it's not a brand new product, but this product is. They have a new version of the Mini, and it's a bit bigger than this. And they had the guy holding it like this, and I measured it. And so this is between 6 and 7 inches. The iPad Mini is between 8 and 9 inches. So I'm thinking about it. For me, for kind of like my replacement for this, as my eyes get worse. Look at my font size, man. Yeah. And God bless Apple for making all this stuff easy to use for people that are having problems, whatever, with their eyes and stuff. Yeah. In terms of the Apple Watch announcement, it's still not worth it for me. This is like an older generation. And the new one is, and I keep it in my pocket because I count steps, because I can't count steps when I'm typing if it's on my wrist. The new screen is a little bit brighter, goes a little bit bigger. It goes all the way to the edge, same kind of size though. Yeah. But I think if you're an avid photographer or videographer, and if you have money, whatever, the new iPhone makes sense. Otherwise, skip it. Yeah. And the battery life's supposed to be like 2 hours longer, but that's never the case. All right, but I am really excited about iOS 15 though. It's coming out soon, especially the ability to multitask and customize having windows side by side in multiple formats. And you'll see when you check it out. Or if you use FaceTime, which I don't, but if you use FaceTime a lot, they've got spatial audio set up so that if you have a bunch of people on the screen in different locations, it sounds like they're coming from that location. Yeah. Okay. And by the way, please, everybody in this call, if you use an iOS device, please upgrade to 14.8 right now. Turn me off. Because there was a significant, like this one really matters, security vulnerability. People might be able to listen to you remotely. Yeah, upgrade right away to 14.8. Yeah, I did it. And I have my family do it too. All right, next up, Chris, is the CFA considered the hardest course on Wall Street? And I saw many vice presidents at Goldman Sachs don't have a CFA, where they're also not from an Ivy League. So if I get the CFA plus Ivy League, along with internships at a top bank through references, which will help me to get further internships at Goldman, JP Morgan, will enhance my resume. Then I will have better skills than them. Yeah. So, well, first of all, Goldman Sachs pays much less than most Wall Street firms. They do. Right? It's kind of like McKinsey, right? There's this, cachet of it, prestige, whatever, but they pay you less until you make partner. But I would say that I'd say a CFA is more respected than a traditional MBA in the investment community. That's just what I have to say. Yeah. So. Yeah. But you're looking at the CFA is more so for people that want to work in investments. Most people that work at Goldman Sachs are salespeople, right, in various industries. But if you want to work at a mutual fund, investment research, hedge fund, whatever, I think a CFA is more valuable. I do. Yeah. And network like crazy if you want to get a job at those places. Yeah. All right. All right. Next up, Mark wrote, I want to sell my natural resources B2B, meaning the natural resources you talked about mining on asteroids, which is dope. How do I find the proper distribution network? Yeah, for natural resources. Yeah. I would say find indirect distributors for you. Like, for example, in the cyclical business or machinery business, what people do is they distribute their products quite often through Grainger, ticker GWW, or through Fastenal, which is growing like a weed, ticker FAST. There's indirect distribution, kind of like for me. I sell direct to a lot of my customers from my website, but I also use indirect distribution channels like Udemy that has a much bigger reach than I do myself. And whenever you do that, when you sell direct yourself, your margins are higher. And when you sell indirect, your margins are lower because somebody else is selling your product. Kind of like selling your product at Walmart, right? Versus just selling direct from your website, right? So it's a catch-22. But when you think about indirect sales, you got to think about those customers as being customers you'd never reach anyway by directly selling it yourself. Okay, and then A wrote, thank you, sir, for your guidance. You're most welcome. Okay. All right. Okay, and give me one second here. Okay, next up we got Jing, who wrote, how do you become a thought leader? You write one article every week on LinkedIn, then put them all into a book. Yes, that's right. Repurpose the content. Thanks for the idea, Chris. You're most welcome. It works, I promise you. Many of my students have done it. Yeah. And then Christoph said, are your crypto courses included in the MBA? Yes, and more up-to-date versions of it as well. Yeah. And then A wrote, Chris, sir, thank you. Appreciate your emojis too. God bless you. All right. Okay. And Anurag wrote here, and Anurag, are you the one at first on this message that I wrote a message to? I think you are. Hold on one second, because I think you sent me just a ton of messages about the same topic. I want to make sure that... Oh, no, you're not. I'm so sorry. That was a Sangha, I think. Give me 1 second, because I deleted a comment from somebody earlier on. I don't want to offend anybody. Yeah, it was a Sangha. Yeah. A Sangha, if you're listening, we've exchanged so many messages regarding your support issue for the free course. I don't know what else I can tell you. It gave it to you a million times. Just check your emails and thank you. Yeah. Okay. And I love you. Yeah. All right, hold on a second. Sorry about that. Okay, Anurag wrote here, good to see you. Chris, good to see you too. What are your thoughts on the CPA in the United States, the Certified Public Accountant, and the ACCA of the United Kingdom for qualifications? Yeah, I don't know much about the UK certification, but the CPA it's something that will certainly help you tremendously in your career if you want to work as an accountant at a big firm like KPMG. And accounting and finance are two things that are not intuitive. It's not common sense. You have to learn the basics, which I teach you in my MBA program. Yeah. All right. Next up, and I got to wrap it up in a minute here. Next up, letter A wrote, Chris, sir, what is the reputation of CFP, meaning Chartered Financial Planner, on Wall Street? Yeah. I mean, anytime you can have some sort of certification, it helps you. But in order to get a job in a private wealth management division, PWM, of a Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, B of A, whatever, you certainly don't need that designation. What's more important when it comes to financial planning is your ability to network. Okay. Oh my God, David, how are you? David goes by Mr. Nitro 458. God bless you. I hope things are better for you now. Great to see you. And so David actually was one of the first people on my weekly call back in week number 1, 2, and 3. And his wife is from where I'm from in Canada. And he sent me actually Tim Hortons and mug and all that great stuff. And thank you. Great to see you. And then you said it's almost time for Reese's. That's right, Reese's. And you sent me those Reese's peanut butter cups, I think, last Halloween. Thank you. I love Reese's peanut butter cups. Yeah, and for my kids during Halloween, like I'm an easy dad to get along with, but I have a tax on their Halloween candy. It's when they get Reese's peanut butter cup, it's mine. It's an unwritten rule in the Haroun household. There are some tears around Halloween, but the Reese's peanut butter cups are mine. They're mine. Yeah. And I love Reese's. And by the way, Mr. Reese's, he used to work at Hershey's. And it's a great story. And so this guy Reese, last name was Reese's, he had 11 kids in Pennsylvania, East Coast United States, in the 1800s. And he was working for Hershey's. And he couldn't make enough money to support his family. So he quit and he started his own company called Reese's. And he made Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And then eventually he passed away in the 30s, God bless him. And then the Hershey's Corporation bought the Reese's Corporation. And now the number one best-selling chocolate bar in America is Reese's, which Hershey's owns. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are so good. They're so good. Ooh, I love it. Okay. And then Mr. Nitro wrote how time goes by. Yeah. And I bought your book too, brother, that you made for your daughter. That book, it was the Yoop book or something, right? On Amazon. Yeah. And I'll show everybody here. Yeah, it's a pretty cool book. All right, so it's good one for kids. So if you go to Amazon, I'll go to my orders. Here we go. And I'm going to do a search on the word Yoop, I think. Or no, it's Yeep. It was Yeep. Years ago I bought this, right? Yeep. I thought it was called Yeep. Let me know the name of the book. I remember I bought it years ago. It was in Kindle, right? I don't want to waste everyone's time here, but this is one of my students here. Okay. Anyway, Yeep book. All right, last check. And then I'll get back to question, I promise you. Yeah, it's somewhere here. It was for kids, right? Let me know what it was so I can mention it to everybody. I love it when my students publish books. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'll move on now. All right. All right. Next up, I got Cyrus, who wrote, "Hi, Chris. Nice to see you. Likewise. I just successfully completed my traditional MBA in Shanghai. Congratulations. It's a very Chinese version, one of the best in Asia. I still want to take your MBA course on demand." So great. Thank you. No, I think you'll enjoy it. It's helpful, and it's global in nature as well. I don't teach it just from a U.S. perspective. It's global in nature. Thank you. Yeah. And I spent a bunch of time in Shanghai when I met with Shonda. The ticker was SNDA before it got bought out. And I met with the Nine as well, which back in 06, last time I was there was January of 06. I was there the 4 seasons. I never stayed there. And it was scary, man. The 4 seasons, when you look in the stairwell, it's like 100 floors. It's frightening, but it's cool. But I met with the Nine there because they did the World of Warcraft infrastructure. Yeah. And I remember, dude, I remember thinking, my God, this is like, Shanghai is like Blade Runner. It's Osaka like. It was cool. And Shanghai, by the way, is, if you took New York City and let's say that you took everything off of the island of Manhattan and you had to rebuild it so that it works better, that's Shanghai. The streets are wide, it's futuristic, it's cool. And every time I go there, it looks completely different. Kind of like when I used to go to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It looked different every time. Okay, next up, Anurag wrote, I'm not the one bothering you, Chris. I'm your fan, with a smiley face. No, thanks. It's a Senga earlier on. Yeah, and he's not bothering me. He just asked the same question over and over and over again. Yeah. And the Senga, if you're looking, I'll respond again. Just check your junk mail. I don't know what else I can say. Yeah, thanks. Okay. And I love you, Sangha, if you're watching. And Arag, of course. All my students. All right. Next up, A said, Chris, what degree do you think an economics honors or a Bachelor of Commerce honors degree will help combine with a CFA and an Ivy League for investment bank or hedge fund? I think they're all great. I think what's more important is your ability to network. Always. Your network is your net worth. And I know I sound like a broken record player when I mention that, but I certainly can't overstate enough how important it is to network in business. Yeah. And the biggest mistake a lot of people make is, when they're younger, they're in school and they keep their head down, they get good grades, and life works for them. And then they start working and they keep their head down and they work hard and they look around and everyone's getting promoted faster than them. And everyone's getting raises faster than them. Because you have to ask. You have to ask over and over and over again. Asking you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. And that's just like dating and networking as well. You have to ask a lot. Yeah. And you only have to be right once. Okay. Oh, that's it. Mr. Nitro said the name of the book was Olivia Said Yeet. That's right. I remember that. Okay, let me go there with you, brother. Hold on a second. So I'm going to go to Olivia. It's what you wrote for your daughter, right? Olivia Says Yeet. There it is. That's it here. That's right. That's right. And I must have written one of these, right? Yeah, here it is. This is back. Oh, my brother, this is years ago. This is like week number 3 or something on for this weekly call. I wrote best bedtime story ever and funny too. Great job, Dave. Thanks. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. I don't have a child. I'm a 56-year-old man. I enjoy this book and I read it. Okay, it's funny. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Nicely done. Nice. So anybody's got a kid, you got to download this book on Kindle here. Olivia Says Yeet. Kindle edition. David. Excellent. And you got an illustrator to do it too. Very cool. Time goes by, brother. Wow. Okay. And I got to wrap this up in 1 minute. I'm so sorry. I've got MBA office hours for my gold and platinum students. Cyrus wrote, I love your name, man. It reminds me of a game I used to play called Myst years ago. Cyrus wrote, Chris, I want to take your YouTube course and your $50 bundle course. Do they repeat the same learning in your MBA course? No, it's different. I recommend if you're going to choose one or the other, take. Oh, jeez. That means I have to wrap it up, folks. That scared me, man. It's Guardians of the Galaxy. It scared me. That's my son Dylan. There he is at COVID graduation. Yeah. All right, so this will be the last question I answer. Sorry for getting startled there. So I would just take the MBA one, right? It's more up to date and things in more detail and taught differently with more prompts. Yeah, and everything's got a money back guarantee anyway. Yeah. Cool. I see there's a lot more questions there, guys. I'm so sorry. I got to jump. Copy your questions and ask me again next week. I do this call every week, and I'll do it forever. What happens, as you all know, is within a couple hours of this call being done, one of my amazing employees who I met on week number 10 here, named John Clee, what he does is he puts together a list of all questions asked. You can go to the description field of this YouTube and click and get immediate access to the answers so I can save you all time. So if you subscribe to my vlog, I'll see you every day at 9 a.m., which is when my vlog drops. If you don't, God bless you all. God bless you if you subscribe to my vlog too. And have a great weekend. And I'll see you next Thursday and every single Thursday forever at 8 a.m. my time. And as always, I end my weekly video with this video here I licensed.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.